Flashback 6 years October 10th. Hold your positions. We must slow down the QB for as long as the Yondaime needs. A random Jounin shouted, bleeding profusely from the head. It had come as a complete surprise. 1 second it was just a regular day in the village of Konoha. The next the nine-tailed fox, better known as QB, was attacking the village. Every shinobi above Chūnin was fighting the beast, while the Genins were getting the civilians to the evacuation areas. The QB roared, and black and white particles began forming in front of his mouth. Not again, an old man in full black aged armor, the Sandaime Hokage, cried. It took out half the village the first time. Suddenly, a giant toad with a pipe in its mouth appeared over the QB, crushing it and disrupting the technique it was trying to use. It's the fourth, the ninjas shouted. Gamabunta, hold it down, I need to create a barrier. Minato yelled down to his summon, holding a bundle wrapped in cloths in his hands. The toad responded with a grunt as he stomped on the QB's head. A transparent shield erupted around them. Gamabunta, please leave, it was great working with you over the years. Tell the pervert I said bye. Will do, Minato, good luck. Minato placed down the bundle he was carrying, revealing it to be a baby with blonde hair. He went through a set of 9 hand seals, ending them by clapping his hands together. Fuinjutsu, Shiki Fujin Shiki, he cried out. A spectral form of the death god himself appeared behind Minato, a knife clenched between its teeth, and the fourth Hokage's soul in front of it, partially connected to its owner. Naruto, I am so sorry for all the pain this will cause you. I am going to be sealing half the QB inside you, and half into me. I will also be sealing part of myself into you as well, so we will meet again. I pray that the villagers will see you as the hero you are. At least you'll still have Kushina. Goodbye, Naruto. With that said, he shouted his final word. Fuin. Hospital 5 minutes later. A beautiful woman with red hair was lying in a hospital bed, completely tired after giving birth. Suddenly, a vortex appeared beside the bed. A man came out and looked down at the woman. I might have lost the QB, but I won't let you win, Kushina, the mysterious man stated. He then touched Naruto's mom, sucking her into the vortex, and disappeared soon after. Flashback end. It was 6th anniversary of the festival of QB's defeat by the hands of the 4th Hokage. Everyone was outside, celebrating and playing the games. Well, almost everyone. One Uzumaki Naruto, an orphan, was sitting in his trashy apartment, staring at the door. He was waiting for the inevitable mob to come to kill the demon like they did every year on this day. And it just so happened to be his birthday. He didn't know why they always came, or what he had done to them. All he knew was that they would come. No more, he thought. I will fight back. He looked down at his right hand, closing and opening his fist. Each time he opened his fist, a flame of bright orange and red fire flared out, and whenever he closed his fist, the flame would be snuffed out. He had found this ability over the past year after his 5th birthday present. At first, he could only control fire up to being able to manipulate it around his surroundings. Then it was wind, though his wind was still not up to his fire ability, seeing as he only received it 3 months prior. He deduced that he should be able to control all 5 elements over time. Yes, Naruto knew all about the 5 elements, and the order they were in, as well as a lot more. His idiot personality was a front to avoid suspicion, but that was to change tonight. He had changed out of his Kill Me orange jumpsuit and into a full black outfit with red linings along the sides. He was brought out of musings when he heard the drunken yelling of "Kill the demon," and "We shall finish what the Yondaime started." Naruto sighed and snuffed out his flame and adopted a very convincing scared expression. The door broke down and the mob spilled in. "Time for you to die, demon," a pink-haired banshee screeched. "Why do you hate me? I'm no demon," Naruto cried. "Demon, you killed our loved ones. You're the QB reincarnation," a random villager shouted. Then Naruto grinned. "Thank you for the information." 5 minutes later. As all this was going on, the Hokage and Enbu were starting to arrive at the scene. When they made it to the apartment, they saw all villagers being blown out in a giant gust of wind. When entering the apartment, they see Naruto in a strange pose. It was reminiscent of the Jukin of the Hyuga clan. He was leaning down, hands straight. His right was down, while the left was up, both in a straight line. "Naruto, what have you done?" Sarutobi asked, shocked. "This is my goodbye, old man. I am done with the beatings, and I'm done with this village. I'm leaving." Naruto then jumped out the window and started running. Capture him, the Hokage ordered. The Ambu immediately left. Okay, they're coming, gotta turn up the heat. He then started firing balls of fire into the surrounding houses, forcing the Ambu to stop to put them out. He ran out of the gates and into the forests, turned around, and blew flames out of his mouth. Soon the whole section of forest in front of the village gates were burning, and the fire was spreading. With one last glance at his old home, Naruto turned his back on his old home, vowing not to return for a long time. Many miles outside the village. Okay, so I have escaped. Now where do I go from here? Naruto was running. He had always had a lot of stamina for a 6-year-old and has been using it to run for hours. He had a map of the elemental nations in his hands that he stole from the library and was so focused in trying to figure out where to go when he ran straight into a tree, blacking out. Mindscape. Naruto woke up in a sewer. He was confused because the last thing he remembered, he was running in the forests of Konoha. How the heck did I end up in a freaking sewer? As he was thinking this, he heard banging in the corridor he was facing. Deciding to see what it was, Naruto walked toward the noise. When he exited the corridor, he saw a huge cage with a small piece of paper in the center. But that wasn't the strangest thing. There was a giant fox currently banging its head against the bars of the cage, probably hurting itself in the process. And the fox had 9 tails. Stop it, Naruto said. The fox didn't listen to him, and he tried saying louder. No response. Fed up, Naruto ran up to it, jumped high, and sucked in a lot of air. He then blew a giant gust of air straight into the fox's face, sending it flying back. As it fell, Naruto ran into the cage, up its body, and stared directly into its eyes. Stop this instant. He watched as 3 tomos spun in the fox's eyes before they disappeared. Then the fox started to glow and shrink, getting smaller and smaller until Naruto was looking down at a beautiful red-haired teenager with whisker marks, just like his, and a dark red kimono that accented her figure laying on the floor. What the hell? After a few moments of just staring at the woman in shock, she snapped open her eyes to reveal them to be red and slitted, giving her a feral and exotic look. Before he could appreciate this, though, the woman jumped up, spinning around to take in her surroundings, and finally noticing him. The next thing he knew, she was behind him, claws against his throat. Who are you? Where am I? And what am I doing here? She asked all these questions in one breath. Naruto was scared. He didn't know who this lady was, but he did know that he was about to die. Without thinking about it, he subconsciously activated his ability, sending fire throughout his body, causing the mysterious woman to let go of him and look to him strangely. "No, you're going to answer my questions," he said. "First off, who are you and why were you a fox?" "I am the Kyuubi no Kitsune. This is my human form," she replied. Naruto was shocked. The Kyuubi is supposed to be dead. I thought those villagers were just idiots. And who could have guessed Aishi would be a female, or that she would have a human form? He was so lost in thought that he didn't hear the Kyuubi talking to him until she was right in his face. He quickly backed up and blushed, not used to the close contact, unless someone's trying to kill him. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" he said, laughing sheepishly while scratching the back of his head. "I said, who are you and how did you make fire surround you?" She was annoyed that she had been ignored. My name's Uzumaki Naruto. I've had that ability for a year now, working on wind." He then explained what had happened leading up to his escape from Konoha. She stopped looking at him, muttering to herself about something he couldn't hear. "Oh no, but where are we? Last thing I remember, I was in a forest running. Then I'm here." "We're in your mindscape, Kit. It seems that you have become my new Jinchuriki. Congratulations. You also seem to have gained my ability to control the elements." Jinchuriki, power of human sacrifice? What does that mean? Basically, you were sacrificed to be my container. There are currently 8 other Jinchurikis, each housing one of the 9 Biju. You are the 9th. "So there are others like me?" he asked. "Yes, but I'll have to explain all of this later. Right now, you need to find a village to live in. C is how you left your old one." "Where should I go then?" Suna is allied with Konoha and Iwa hates Konoha. "Kimo. They had 2 Jinchurikis last time I checked. You might be treated well there. Now wake up." As she said this, he started disappearing from the area. Outside world. Naruto opened his eyes to see that no time had passed. He looked at his map. Kumo it is. border between land of hot water and land of frost. It was night. For the past 3 days, Naruto had been traveling, not stopping at any town to avoid awkward questions and possible capture. He hadn't gone all this way just to be taken back to Konoha. He hunted mall animals to eat using concentrated bursts of fire and slept in trees. He got up into a tree, preparing to sleep, but Kyubi had other plans for him. Mindscape. Not knowing how he got there again, Naruto went down the corridor to see the cage, Kyubi in her human form standing right behind it. Kyubi, why am I back here? I called you here, kid. Since you have my abilities, I thought I might as well teach you how to use them, as well as the fighting styles that go with them. Really, Naruto was literally jumping around. He was so excited. He may not have been an idiot, but he was still a kid, and kids got excited about cool things. Wait, why would you have a fighting style if you're a fox? And did you say style? As in more than one? 1. I am not a fox all the time. Do you think a giant demon would be able to move around the nations without being detected? And 2. Yes, styles. I have developed one for each of the elements you will be able to control, save for lightning, seeing as it would just be a variation of the water style. That seems like a lot of work learning 4 different styles. He deadpanned, couldn't I just learn one? If you want to be strong, a little hard work won't hurt you. But there is one jutsu that would help immensely in your training. It's called the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, or the Shadow Clone Technique. This jutsu lets you make copies of yourself containing pieces of your soul. Not only is this a great technique for fighting, but since they contain part of your soul, whatever they learn, you learn as well. That makes them great spies, and will cut down your need to train. Create one clone. You have the time in learning a jutsu. Use 1,000 in. She trailed off, letting it sink in. Awesome, Naruto shouted. If I used this, I wouldn't have to waste months learning something, he thought. Then he was confused. If the technique is so great, why isn't everyone using it? The Kage Bunshin require too much chakra to be used by just anyone. Most jounins can only perform one without completely exhausting their chakra. Since you are a Jinchuriki, you have more chakra than even a Kage. So I'm even better than Gigi? Ha, take that, old man. He can still kick your ass to next week with his eyes closed and his arms behind his back, the Kyubi said bluntly. Naruto goes into a corner to sulk, a small rain cloud over his head. Get up. Now, just cross your index and middle fingers together and say Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. For now, just pour a little chakra into it. Naruto did the required steps, and in a poof of smoke, 10 clones stood beside him. Very good, Kyubi said, impressed. We'll work on your chakra control later so that you can be able to control how many clones you can make. She then made a clone of herself. Have your clones follow my clone. She will be training them in the fire style while I teach you its taijutsu form. The clones followed the Kyubi KB further into the cage. Now fire I characterized by long-range techniques, quick advances and retreats, wide stances, kicking and leaping techniques, whirling circular blocks, quickness, agility, and aggressive attacks. This will also apply to its fighting style. Let us begin. And then she grinned, making Naruto pale in fear of what was in store for him. A long time later, Naruto collapsed into the shallow water of the sewer, utterly spent. He could not believe how sadistic a sensei Kyubi was. After showing him the basics, she had him repeat after her, again and again and again. He felt like if he passed out, he would be doing it in his sleep. Wait, he was already asleep. Well, you get the idea. Even his stamina had limits, and he felt that he crossed them. Twice. As Naruto groaned, he saw the Kyubi walk up to stand over him. Impressive job, kid. Didn't think you'd last as long as you did. She praised him, sounding and looing amused. He just continued groaning, eventually rolling onto his back so that he could stare up at her. Hey, you never did tell me why you even attacked Konoha. You don't act like the type to just attack for no reason, he said, genuinely curious, noticing her flinch. I was controlled. Some man in a mask came to the den I had been currently living in and stared at me. I saw a pair of red eyes, and everything went black. She said. Next thing I know, I'm in this cage with you staring at me. Naruto thought about what she said. Sounds like the Uchiha clan. I'm guessing I was put into an illusion. The only thing is, I was nowhere near your village. I was somewhere in the land of Earth. Okay, enough talk. Dispel your clones and wake up. Hi, sensei. As Naruto dispelled the clones, he received all the clones' experiences in experimenting with the fire element. He was amazed to say the least. Hey kid, before you go we should have a means to communicate. I can't just keep forcing you into your mindscape. Just tear an 8 of the ceiling tag off the cage up there. That way, I'll be able to feel everything you feel and see whatever you see. We'll also be able to communicate telepathically. Trusting the QB and excited about the prospect of these benefits, Naruto got to the seal and prepared to tear a part off. Oh, and before you do that it will kind of dash. Naruto tore the piece off. Hurt. And then he started screaming. The pain was intense. It felt like a piece of burning metal was being forced into his head. As he rolled around on the ground, all the QB could do was watch and worry. After a few minutes, the screaming subsided, and Naruto disappeared back into the real world. Real world. Naruto woke up to see sunlight streaming through the trees and promptly shut his eyes and eyed from the massive headache that was still there. She could have warned me about the pain before I ripped it, he thought before hearing a sigh in his head. Well, sorry, I forgot. It wasn't that bad. On a better note, the connection works. Great. So now what? Try out your new abilities with fire. Like what? Go to that lake, then give me a flying kick, launching as big of a fireball as you can manage. He did just that. Standing on a rock in the lake, he slowly breathed in and out. He then jumped up, spun, and launched a massive ball of fire across the surface of the lake, making the path it went down steam. That was awesome. Naruto screamed in excitement, his earlier pain forgotten. I've never been able to do that before. That, my student, is due to the great assistance of shadow clone training, Kyuubi told him. If I can do that, why can't I use them to train in my taijutsu? Kage Bunshins only give you mental experiences. You could use them for muscle memory, but anything physical like weights or exercises would be meaningless. Slightly disappointed about this fact, Naruto was nonetheless ecstatic that he had the potential to improve this much. Okay, kid, enough self-satisfaction. From now on, every morning you will train in the katas of the fire-style taijutsu, while 10 clones will work on the different forms of using fire. After 2 hours of this, you will travel, at least until we reach Kumo. We will then work on your chakra control after lunch, again including clones. At night you will train in the mindscape with me. This will continue until you master fire. Then we will do the same for wind, and so on. Naruto was excited. Bring it on, sensei. He will regret that. Hihi Biju thoughts. Kit, Biju talking. Whatever human thoughts. Why human speaking? Previously. Okay, Kit, enough self-satisfaction. From now on, every morning you will train in the katas of the fire-style taijutsu, while 10 clones will work on the different forms of using fire. After 2 hours of this, you will travel, at least until we reach Kumo. We will then work on your chakra control after lunch, again including clones. At night you will train in the mindscape with me. This will continue until you master fire. Then we will do the same for wind, and so on. Naruto was excited. Bring it on, sensei. He will regret that. Next day, dawn. Kaedit wawik ki you up. Naruto fell out of the tree he was sleeping in with a yelp, having been rudely awakened by a now giggling vixen. He whined loudly. Kyuubi-sensei, he said out loud. Hee. Oh, Kami, that was hilarious, she said. Naruto couldn't see her, but he could swear he felt her rolling around in his head. Why did you have to do that? He shouted. Kyuubi immediately stopped laughing, but Naruto could feel the amusement rolling off of her. It's time for your training kit, remember? Create the 10 clones, and let's get back to your taijutsu. Grumbling, Naruto created the clones and sent them to the lake to train. Why do you keep calling me kid anyways? I have a name, you know. Kids are baby foxes. You're still a baby in my eyes. Impress me, and I'll call you by your name. Now, get into the horse stance that I showed you yesterday. Feet spread apart, thighs parallel to the ground. Twist your upper body slightly in the direction of your right leg. Place your left fist straight back, bent so that your fist is pointed in your direction. Then, raise your right arm straight forward in the direction you are facing. Bend your arm at the elbow so that your fist is pointed up. He did so shakily, and then promptly fell on his bum. Ita. Again. Naruto repeated the same stance, only to fall. Again. 2 more times he tried it, until he finally got it down. Good. Now, as I told you yesterday, the style I'm teaching you involves attacking, then retreat. In this style, you will utilize both kicking and punching in rapid succession, as well as jumping attacks. This style of fighting will greatly benefit your fire wielding as well, as you will be incorporating it into your taijutsu. Any questions? As Naruto was about to say something, Kyuubi interrupted. Good. Now I want you to. For the next 2 hours, Kyuubi had him go through complex maneuvers. He had to jump off of surfaces and kick at imaginary enemies, punch a tree 1,000,000 times, in his opinion, and kick the same tree another 1,000,000 times. By the time he was done, he was again on the ground, panting. Congrats, Kit. You just finished what your normal training activities will be. The exercises will steadily be growing even harder every day from now on. This will also be added to when you start learning your other taijutsu styles. Naruto just lay there. He then muttered something that sounded like sadistic sensei, and that he was only 6 years old. Heard that. After Naruto dispelled the clones that were working on his fire element, Naruto once again looked at his map. It looks like it will take me 2 days to cross the land of frost, then another 2 days to reach Kumo. He groaned. Why in Kami's name is everything so far away? March, Kit. 5 hours later, middle of the land of frost. Kit, time to get Lu Dash. AI, the scream interrupted what Kyuubi was going to say. Without thinking, Naruto ran in the direction the noise had come from, only to appear on a road where apparently a caravan was being ambushed by 10 or bandits. And again, Naruto acted without thinking. Kit, don't you dare. He cut the connection, jumping straight out into the clearing with the 2 carriages, creating 3 Kage Bunshin while running. Hey! One of the bandits turned toward the noise, only to see a small blonde-haired child jump into the air, spin, and kick a massive fireball at him. Yelping, the bandit jumped to the side in the nick of time just to see the flame explode right where he had been not a second before. This had effectively gained all the bandits' attention. They turned to him, noticing that there were 2 others that looked just like him standing on either side of him. Get him, the supposed leader said, and they all charged. Straight into the figurative oven. Naruto felt like he was on autopilot. All the basic training he had done, and all the training his clones had done, he used them all. He was blocking, jumping, kicking, and retreating, keeping the bandits at bay, and leaving plenty of bruising on their skin. He didn't even need to use his fire. Yet. They're just children, you idiots. Kill them. The bandits pulled out the swords they carried. Naruto narrowed his eyes. Kid's gloves came off. It was time to get serious. He thought back to what his clones learned. He stood straight up, closed his eyes, and breathed in deeply, feeling for the warmth in his core that symbolized his fire. He then got into his horse stance, just as the first bandit got to him. He promptly punched the guy in the stomach, unleashing a blast of fire as he did so. The bandit went flying past his comrades and landed a good 50 feet away. He did not get back up. The other bandits looked back at the blonde, shock in their eyes, only to see his fists surrounded by fire, as were his clones. A sadistic smirk spread across his lips as he and his clones charged the group. No contest. In 1 minute, all the bandits were on the ground, groaning with bruises and burns spread all over their bodies. As Naruto saw the people of the caravan stick their heads outside their carriages, he knew he couldn't stay. If they questioned him, they would send him back to Konoha. He would not go back. He promptly ran away, not looking back. Hours later, Naruto had stopped running a while back after making sure he wasn't followed. When he saw how dark it was getting, he realized that he still had to have his training with Kyuubi in the mindscape. In fact, he hadn't even heard from the vixen since before the attack. Now worried, he climbed a tree and closed his eyes. Mindscape. As Naruto stood before the cage containing his tenant, he couldn't find her anywhere. After a minute, he decided to go into the cage to find her. Kyuubi-sensei, hey, where are you? Aren't I supposed to be training? He called out. Who do you think you are? He turned around to see her just standing there, looking at him, no emotion on her face. What do you mean? I am. You completely disobeyed me and went into a dangerous fight that had nothing to do with you. Sei interrupted. So I was just supposed to walk away? Leave those people to fend for themselves. You were supposed to do as you're told. Disobey me again, and you can forget about training. He just looked at her in shock, and then lowered his eyes shamefully, sad that he disappointed his sensei. But, the QB continued, you performed admirably. It seems the last 2 days, and the fight has proven you adept in your fire abilities. We'll start Earth tomorrow. She grinned at his happy face. So, she got into the fire stance. From now on, every night you will be in here, and we will spar. She jumped at him with a kick, causing him to duck with a yelp. As she sailed over him, she grabbed him by the back of the shirt, then flipped him while still in the air and using the momentum to fling him into the ground. Groaning, Naruto looked up, only to see her dropping down toward him, both her feet straight, and pointed at him. All he could do was pale in fear. 10 minutes later, Naruto was just a twitching mass on the floor. Kyubi had definitely not pulled any punches at his expense. The vixen was currently sitting near him, smirking as she watched him suffer. She felt that that was enough punishment for his actions. Tomorrow we will begin your earth training, Naruto. Next morning. After Naruto had gotten up, Kyubi explained to him the ability to use the earth surrounding him. She explained that just as the earth was unmoving, so must he. He must learn to remain unflinching and also commanding. The earth would not allow itself to be controlled by someone who is weak-willed. When he asked why he wasn't practicing his wind, since he had already learned to unleash it, she explained that wind taijutsu was completely different from his fire, while earth was similar. She said that it would be easier to learn the styles that were similar to each other first, then learn the newer styles. When explaining the style, she said that the beginning stance is the same, but instead of taking to the air like with his fire, he must stay to the ground. This style of fighting mainly uses kicks, knocking the opponent off balance by kicking out his roots. In addition to the 10 clones working on fire, his sensei had him create 10 clones to work on the basics of earth manipulation. When he dispelled the clones, he found that it was going to be harder to control this element, which didn't like to be moved, than it was to control fire, which begged to be released. He had also noticed that he had gained his sensei's respect, if just a little bit. The first time he heard her call him by his name, he was so shocked that he fell right on his face. He had then started calling her Kyubi whenever they weren't training. He had completed his chakra control training with tree climbing and was working on water waking whenever he was near a water source. He had also made some headway in his traveling. He was now just outside the land of lightning. In just 2 days he would be at Kumo. Plenty of time for uninterrupted training. 2 days later, in front of the mountain where Kumo resides. For the past 2 days, Naruto had been training nonstop. He had also been blindfolded. Kyubi had told him that a true Earth Master would be able to see, without using her eyes, by feeling the movements and vibrations in the earth. Everything made a vibration, no matter how small. She said this was to make it so that even if he was blinded by smoke or couldn't see the enemy with his eyes, if the opponent was touching a surface, Naruto would see him. It also served to lower an opponent's guard if she thought Naruto couldn't see. At first, Naruto couldn't move 10 steps without tripping or hitting a tree. Eventually, however, he was able to see a complete 100 feet around him. He had nowhere mastered it though. As Naruto looked up at the mountain, he couldn't help but shiver at the cold. Traveling in the mountains while it was in the middle of October was never a good idea. He suddenly came up with an idea. Concentrating on his core, Naruto spread his chakra around his body, heating it with his fire manipulation. Satisfied, Naruto started his run through the mountain, estimating it to be a couple of hours before he reached the top. Outside the gates of Kumo, Naruto slowed down to a walk. He had been taking breaks while running up the mountain, and when he saw the gates, he made the decision to calmly walk the rest of the way so that there wouldn't be any alarm. As he walked up to the gate, he saw 2 guards. The both were dark-skinned and bald, and they had on white vests. They must be Kumo's Chūnin, he thought. He was broken out of his thoughts by one of the Chūnin. What are you doing here, kid? Where are your parents? Naruto had already thought of a story beforehand. My whole caravan was attacked by bandits and in the land of frost. He whimpered. My papa hid me in the forest before they attacked. He said he'd come back. After a while, all the noise stopped. Naruto then started crying. My family's dead. We were on our way here, so I just... One of the ninjas stopped him. Okay, kid, we'll take you to the wreckage. You can tell him your story. Naruto sniffled and nodded, but on the inside, he was smiling. Suckers. Naruto, I sense the two-tail and eight-tailed Jinchuriki nearby. If I can sense them, they can definitely sense you. Drop the act when you see the Raikage, or else we're in trouble. Hi, Sensei. He was led throughout the village by one of the Chūnin until they reached a tall building. It was as tall as the Hokage building, but it was white instead of red. This could only be the Raikage building. They went inside and passed a woman who he assumed to be the secretary. She was dark-skinned with unusually white hair and a pretty face. The Chūnin nodded at her and continued, leading them to climb a few sets of stairs until they reached the top. He then opened the door to the Raikage's office. As soon as Naruto entered the room, even he could feel the demonic energy. He immediately paled, knowing the jig was up. Raikage-sama, the Chūnin began, this boy is looking for asylum in Kumo. His whole family is dead. Naruto looked at the man behind the desk. The man was huge and ripped. His muscles are bigger than my freaking head. Naruto thought in horror. He then looked at the two people, one male, one female, who were obviously giving off the energy he felt. The female looked to be around his age. She was pale-skinned and had her blonde hair down in a braid. She was wearing a purple shirt with black pants, and as he looked closer at her eyes, they looked almost feline with slitted pupils. The male looked almost exactly like the Raikage except not as big or muscular. He also seemed to be in his late teens, early 20s. The Raikage smiled and thanked the Chūnin, dismissing him. As soon as the ninja left, the Raikage turned to Naruto. Stop those tears. Who are you and why is there a Jinchuriki visiting Kumo? Naruto immediately stood straight and grinned with his eyes closed, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. Whoops. Guess those two warned you, huh? He then bowed. Uzumaki Naruto, Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko, at your service. He then looked at each of the Jinchuriki and listened to the information Kyubi provided him. He pointed to the girl. You hold the Nibi no Bakaniko, two-tailed monster cat. He then pointed at the older man. And you hold the Hachibi no Kaido, eight-tailed giant ox. They were both surprised by his knowledge. The Raikage just stared at him, giving away nothing. Naruto chuckled. Kyubi told me. The Raikage then spoke up. Why have you come to Kumo? Did that old monkey send you as a spy? Naruto just laughed. If I was a spy, I wouldn't have been caught. Your ninja are suckers for a sob story. No, Gigi has no idea I'm even here. I've left Konoha. The villagers treated me like dirt, so I abandoned them. Kyubi told me that Kumo treats their Jinchuriki with respect, so here I am. You want to become a Kumo nin? The Kage asked, shocked. If you will allow it. The Kage appeared to be in thought. What abilities did you gain from the Kyubi? Yujito, he pointed to the girl, gained the ability to control something called Hellfire, while B, he pointed to the male, has the ability to use ink to bind enemies. He has also gained enough control over his Biju and is able to turn into it. Naruto discussed whether or not to respond with Kyubi inside his head. Finally, he spoke. I have complete control over the elements. Well, not all of them, yet. So far, I have a very control over fire and earth. Giving a small demonstration, he created a ball of fire in his hand and started juggling it. Noticing their shocked expressions, he smiled and continued. Kyubi-sensei says I'll be starting wind soon, maybe in the next couple of days. The Kage's expression was priceless. Kid, consider yourself a Kumo resident. You will have to go through the academy like Ms. Ni, but welcome to the village. How long do I have to remain in the academy? Unlike Konoha, we require 6 years. We don't believe in sending our genin to their deaths on their first mission because they needed to learn how many times their first Kage took a dump. The Raikage said with disgust. Naruto smiled happily. Excellent. I have one condition, though. Name it. You said that B has control over his Biju, correct? Kyubi and I have a good relationship, but she says that her chakra can still be harmful for me. I want B to be my sensei, and Yujito will be my only teammate. The Raikage liked the idea. A team of Jinchuriki. They'd be able to watch each other's backs and get closer together. Brilliant idea. Team Jinchuriki will be started as soon as you're out of the academy. In the meantime, you can stay with B and Yujito, seeing as you have no lodgings. Naruto smiled. Sounds good. He then went up to his 2 new roommates. I will be honored to work with you in the future. I hope we become great friends. He then grinned, again with his eyes closed. Heyo9080 says hello. And, please don't flame me. I will try to get better. Naruto's sweat dropped. Yujito just smiled at him. It's a pleasure to meet another Jinchuriki my age, Naruto-san. We'd better go home though. It's getting late. We can shop tomorrow for your new clothes. The academy starts next week. Naruto nodded and smiled, knowing his life had changed for the better. Last time. Sounds good. He then went up to his two new roommates. I will be honored to work with you in the future. I hope we become great friends. He then grinned, again with his eyes closed. Hey 09080 says hello. And, please don't flame me. I will try to get better. Naruto's sweat dropped. Yujito just smiled at him. It's a pleasure to meet another Jinchuriki my age, Naruto-san. We'd better go home though. It's getting late. We can shop tomorrow for your new clothes. The academy starts next week. Naruto nodded and smiled, knowing his life had changed for the better. 6 years later, Kimogakure Plains. Clang, clang, clang. Two figures were fighting in an open plain high up in the mountains. They each had weapons, but while one only carried a single sword, the other carried dual Dao swords. They were going at it with great speed and skill when the one with two swords brought a foot behind his opponent and pulled, knocking him off balance. When the opponent fell, he pointed both his sword at his neck and stopped. I win again, Omoy. The now named Omoy was a dark-skinned teen with white, spiky hair. He had a lollipop in his mouth, and his usually bored expression was replaced by annoyance. Whatever, Naruto. Naruto had changed a lot in 6 years. He now wore a sleeveless black zip-up vest, black pants of the same material, and open-finger gloves with metal plates on the back. His relationship with the QB had risen drastically, and he had started showing more signs of being her Jinchuriki than just whisker marks. His spiky blonde hair now had blood-red tips. His eyes now had slanted pupils like a fox's, and he had elongated fangs just jutting past his now smirking lips. Because of his looks, however, he had gained the one thing any man fears. Fangirls. Naruto sealed his swords into storage seals located on the inside of his wrists. He had grown proficient in the area, becoming a master in the art, and even finding a seal placed on him by his father containing letters and jutsu. Yes, he now knew that his father was the fourth Hokage, and he was disgusted with Konoha for their animosity to him. How many wins does that give me? He asked as he helped his friend Omoy up. What was that? He asked as Omoy mumbled something. I didn't quite hear what you said. Okamo dash. 700 you fucking bastard. Omoy leapt at Naruto as Naruto roared with laughter, bowling him over and starting an old-fashioned wrestling match rolling in the dirt, Naruto laughing all the way. What do you think you're doing? The boys looked up to see the Raikage looking down at them, lips twitching in amusement. GG/Hokage-sama. The boys said simultaneously. Shouldn't you two be at the academy by now? It's the graduation exam today, isn't it? Sorry, old man, we were sparring again. Which I won. Naruto eyed smugly, then winced when Omoy hit him upside the head. Well then, scat. Get going. Bye, old man. The two boys then ran back to the village. I hate you, Naruto. I bask in your hate. Academy. The teacher, a burly dark-skinned man, was behind his desk reading out a list of names. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto Uzumaki. He repeated. No answer. Where is that blasted kid? He exploded. Freaking rookie of the year, and he can't show up? He then looked around. And where the hell is Omoy? Then the door to the classroom slammed open. Here, Naruto yelled. He looked around. I was on time, right? The class laughed. Just get up her Uzumaki. The teacher said. Now since Uzumaki graced us with his presence, he will be the first to take the test. Remember, you all have to display adequate mastery over the 3 basic jutsu, Henge, Kawarimi, and the Bunshin. You must also be able to do a Raiton, Senbon. After that, all who pass takes a lunch break, then we have a taijutsu spar. Remember, not everyone will pass. Uzumaki, begin. Naruto quickly went through each of the basics, then fired a dozen Senbon into the far wall. He then left, not saying a word. He wasn't fast enough to escape the squeals of admiration from the fangirls, though. 5 minutes later, outside the academy, Naruto was eating his lunch when a pair of hands covered his eyes. Without stopping, he said, Hey, Nico, what did I say about calling me that? And how do you keep knowing it's me? A feminine voice said. The hands left, and Naruto just turned his head behind him, smirking. I can smell you. Yujito just rolled her eyes. She hadn't changed a lot over the years. Her hair had grown longer until it reached the small of her back. Her eyes were that dark feline shape. All in all, she was exotic. Naruto noticed he was staring and looked away with a blush. Oh, does Naruto have a crush? Naruto's eyes widened. Shut up, QB-chan. He stammered to the demoness in his mind. She is very pretty. And she's a Jinchuriki to boot. You better hurry before someone else gets her. She continued, grinning all the while. Naruto quickly cut the connection, not enjoying the thought. He didn't realize a similar conversation was going on with Yujito. Come on, kitten. Just take him back home with you after you both become ninja. Throw him on your bed and ride him until you both pass out. Nibby purred. I am not going to jump Naruto, Nibby. We're only 12. Yujito groaned. Why did she have to get the most perverted biju in the world? But what about those dreams you had dash? Yujito quickly cut the connection, blushing furiously. Thankfully, they were both saved from embarrassment by the arrival of their 3 friends. Omoy, Samui, and Karui came up to them, each sporting grins. Ever since the group had met each other at the start of the academy, they had been inseparable. They were a family through and through, even though they had apparently started seeing something between Naruto and Yujito that not even the two saw. Karui was a lot like Naruto in personality, very outgoing and rash at times, but also having a short fuse. She had dark long red hair, dark skin like Omoy, and golden eyes. Samui was light-skinned like Yujito with a very impressive bust and short cropped hair unlike Yujito's long braided hair. She was like the total opposite of Karui, always have a calm and cool personality. They were both sisters to Naruto, and he was thankful he had so many precious people in his life. So what were two talking about Mr. Rookie of the Year? Karui teased, eyes shining. She loves calling him that. He hated it. Everyone thought he was a prodigy because of it. Nothing Karui just excited about almost being ninja. Yujito said, well, of course we're the best year of ninja since Darui's team came out. Karui said, puffing out her chest in pride. Omoy just shook his head, probably thinking up an insane scenario. They kept talking for another half hour when the instructor came out to call them to the training field for the taijutsu portion. When the students who passed made it there, the instructor called different names to take the test. They had to survive 6 minutes against the instructor. Not even half the class made it. Uzumaki, you're up. Ignoring the screams of his fangirls, Naruto walked into the ring. Let's see, I just have to fight for 5 minutes, not beat him. There it is. He stood with his body facing away from the center of the ring, his legs spread out. He then twisted his body so that he was facing the instructor and moved his open hands up and nodded. The instructor shouted out and charged the boy, throwing out a punch with his right hand. Naruto quickly spun to the man's left, getting behind him while keeping a foot in front of the instructor's left foot. He then used the man's momentum to trip him by swinging the foot back and pushing him with his right hand. The instructor fell. By the time his teacher was back up, Naruto was already back in his original pose. This continued for 5 minutes. The teacher would try anything to hit Naruto, and Naruto would always end up behind him. Okay, you pass. The instructor stated, throwing Naruto his new Kumo headband, marking him as a ninja. Naruto smiled happily as his friends cheered for him. When he got to them, Yujito hugged him excitedly, and he blushed. Next day, Academy. Naruto and his friends were chatting away excitedly, all sporting headbands. Today was the day that they would be placed in their teams. While Naruto and Yujito knew they would be on the same team due to the deal he made with the Raikage all those years ago, they were still worried about being separated. It would be great if their other friends were put on the same team. Team 8 will be Samui, Omoy, and Karui. Your Jounin sensei will be Darui. As they cheered, a guy who looked like Omoy but with longer hair came up. Team 8 with me. Team 9 will be 3-man team consisting of Naruto and Yujito. Your Jounin sensei will be B. He said to meet him at the usual place. Naruto grinned at Yujito as they raced out of the academy and toward the plateau near where they live high in the mountain. 5 minutes later. How I win. Naruto cheered after landing in front of his new sensei. Huff, huff. Not everyone can use wind to make themselves faster, Naruto. Yujito panted right after her. Naruto just childishly stuck his tongue out at her. He had always been the fastest in his age group, even faster than most Chūnin. By expelling wind through his tenketsu, Naruto found that he could be a lot faster than normal. He was currently trying to go further by spreading his lightning throughout his body, but wind and lightning cancel each other out, so it has failed. Ms. 2 and Mr. 9. I hope you two are fine. They both groaned at the terrible rap. Can we just get started on the cool missions already? Naruto pleaded. He wanted to get out of the village, take down bandits, and deliver top-secret information, anything. 5 weeks later. Mission accomplished, Raikage-sama. Naruto gritted out through clenched teeth, eye twitching. Yujito giggled beside him, amused by his behavior. The so-called awesome missions were a bunch of D-ranked chores such as the one they just completed. Catching the golden retriever runaway named Okami. And this was the 10th time. How was that even possible? Good job. Now then, we have babysitting a councilwoman's baby, painting a fence, sweeping the streets, or dash. Come back, Okami. Catching Okami. The Raikage finished. Naruto exploded. Gigi, you can't be serious, he shouted. Yujito and I are too awesome for these chores. We're freaking Jinchuriki. Why the heck are we doing things that are so simple that academy children could do? The Raikage smirked. The punk finally snaps. He threw a scroll to their sensei. An old bridge builder from Wave is requesting protection. This will be a C-rank mission lasting a month. You leave tomorrow. While the Raikage was talking, Naruto looked on in shock. Slowly, his eyes started twitching rapidly. Hold up, he shouted. Are you telling me we could have had a higher mission if I had just spoken up? We've just been wasting our time. Pretty much. I'll kill you. His teammates started dragging him away. Let me go, guys. Die. The door slammed closed with Naruto's screams of anger and A's roaring laughter. Next day, gates of Kumo. Team Jinchuriki was up and doing last-minute preparations for the mission. Well, except for Naruto. Oh, come on, Naruto-kun. Stop sulking. You're finally getting out of the village. Oh, that's easy for you to say, Kyubi-chan. That was 5 weeks of my life wasted. He moaned. I'm going to kill Agigi. She scoffed. 5 weeks is nothing. Well, maybe not for you, you lazy furball. I'm surprised you're even up. He had to hold his head from the pain of his tenant yelling about his insult. I'm sorry. Humph, I'm going back to sleep. His sweat dropped out of behavior. Naruto, let's go. Yujito shouted. Her face was right in front of his, and she looked annoyed. It's a long way from here to Wave, you know. Shaking off the urge to blush at their closeness, Naruto smirked. Want a race? Outskirts of Wave. Naruto felt amazing. When he first made the journey from Konoha to Kumo, it took him days. Now, leaping through the trees with his team, it only took him 5 hours. They soon broke through the trees and came up to the ocean, mist covering where they assumed the island was. Without missing a beat, they all continued running on the surface of the water using chakra. As they crossed onto the island, they heard the obvious sounds of a battle. He raised his hand, telling the two to stop. He then pointed in the direction of the noise. With Haku. Your battle is now over. She told the group of Konoha Nin as she picked up the body of her master. I must dispose of this body since it holds many secrets from my village. I must get Zabuza-sama away from this place. As she was making the hand seal for the shunshin, a black blur appeared right over her. She barely had enough time to drop the body and pull out 2 senbon to block the pair of swords that would have cut her neck. What do you think you're doing? She shouted in surprise as she began to dodge and block the assailant. I am a Kirigakure hunter Nin. That person was my target. She jumped backgrounds to gain distance from the one who attacked her, and saw that it was a blonde-haired boy who had 3 whisker marks on each cheek. The boy scoffed. Hunter Nin policy is to dispose the body of any missing Nin on the spot. You tried to get away with him. He pointed one of his swords at her and smirked. Game over. Knowing that there was no way to trick him, Haku created an ice mirror to teleport herself to her master's side and escaped with him. Naruto. Naruto sighed as he felt the so-called Hunter Nin escape. Just as he was sealing his swords away, the rest of his team dropped down next to him. Little Nine, the way you moved was just fine. Naruto-kun, why didn't you just beat the masked guy up? You practically led him to Zabuza to escape. Naruto? Naruto Uzumaki. Hearing the unfamiliar voice, Naruto turned his head in its direction, only to pale. The team that was originally fighting was a group of Konoha Nin. Tazuna's house. Tsunami, Tazuna shouted out as he and the 2 teams walked into the house. I'm home. Father, A pretty woman in her early to mid-20s came up and hugged him. I was so worried. As he hugged her, he asked, "Where is Inari?" A little boy with a depressed air around him came into the room to hug the bridge builder, muttered a greeting, and then left. Everyone's sweat dropped at this while Tazuna gave a nervous laugh and Tsunami invited them in for something to eat. As they were going into the kitchen, Naruto felt a hand on his shoulder halting his movement. Resisting the urge to crush the offending hand, he turned around to face the Jounin from Konoha with a glare. "What the hell do you want, Scarecrow?" The man ignored his words and gave him a nice smile. "You've been gone for a long time, Naruto. It's time for you to come home." In an instant, B had him held against the wall by his collar and glaring at him. "Naruto Uzumaki is a genin of Kumogakure. You have no hold on him. He was born and raised as a citizen dash." "That's right," Naruto interrupted. "I was a citizen. I had every right to leave. I left. There's nothing you or Hokage can do." Kakashi sighed as he saw the blonde was correct. "Will you continue the mission with us? We could use the help." He chuckled sheepishly. "Be let him go. We will continue the mission. But if I even think you are trying to abduct Naruto, I will end you." After they ate, the two teams went in their separate rooms and slept on their futons. "Mindscape." "Kyubi," he called. As he walked through his mindscape, he couldn't help but admire how much it had changed since he was first there 6 years ago. Instead of a dreary sewer, the inside of his mind was now a huge forest with a giant crystal-clear lake. There was a mountain in the distance, and he had put small animals in the forest for his tenants' amusement. But right now he was trying to find his wayward friend/sensei to get advice. The only thing was that he couldn't use his sensing abilities since he was in his mind. After searching for a while, he finally sighed in frustration and lay down beside the lake with his eyes closed. After a few minutes, he heard leaves crunch behind him. "If you try to tackle me, I swear I will create a group of horny foxes to chase you for hours. You're no fun, Naruto-kun." Even with his eyes closed, he could hear the pout in her voice. He opened his eyes to see the red-haired vixen standing over him with a small smile. Her tails were out and waving lazily behind her. She kneeled down and put his head on her lap. "So did you come here just to see me, or did you have something you wanted to talk about?" she asked as she brushed her hands through her hair. This had become a normal routine for them over the years. He sweat dropped and looked up at her. "You were asleep for the whole thing, weren't you?" he deadpanned. She had the decency to look sheepish, and he sighed as he explained what had happened. As soon as he told her about the Jounin's demands, she bristled up in anger at his audacity. "So you're just going to stay with them?" she asked incredulously. "That's risky even for you, Naruto-kun. If anything happens, I have B-sensei and Yujito-chan," he countered, "and I'll always have you by my side." Since his eyes were closed, Naruto missed the small blush on the redhead's cheeks at his words. She sighed in resignation. "Just be on your toes, Naruto-kun," she said as his image faded. "Will do." Clearing where they practiced tree walking in the manga. The two teams stood facing each other in a clearing not far from their client's house. Kakashi started. "Now the purpose of today is to get to know each other. After we introduce each other, we will have spars. My team can go first." He pointed to a pink-haired girl with a huge forehead. "My name is Sakura Haruno. Sasuke Uchiha." Kiba Inuzuka got a problem with that deal. It was the Kumo's turn. "Sai Naruto Uzumaki. Yujito ni." "Wonderful, now we can spar," Kakashi said with an eye smile. "Ladies first." Yujito and Sakura walked into the middle of the clearing. Sakura then turned to the emo boy and shouted, "Sasuke-kun, watch me win." Naruto's eyes twitched. God damn it, another fangirl. He then saw Yujito glaring at the girl and grinned. The fangirl was dead. And true to his prediction, the fight, if you could call it that, was embarrassing. The fangirl came at his teammate at barely Genin-level speeds and tried to land a simple punch on her. If she had been fighting Naruto, he would have defeated her before she had taken the first step. As it was, Yujito scoffed at the speed of the girl, ducked, and gave her a fierce punch right into the stomach. The fangirl flew back and slammed into a tree. She gave out a screech before she fainted. That was just embarrassing, he thought. Can we kill her? He was honestly contemplating the question. Kakashi gave an embarrassed laugh at his student's defeat. Okay, how about Naruto and Kiba come up, hoping that his student would provide a better fight. Yahoo Akamaru, we have this in the bag. Let's beat this loser. His dog barked happily at him. As soon as they got the go-ahead, Naruto focused killing intent at the dog and snarled at it. Leave? Understandably, the dog left. Kiba growled at the blonde. What did you do to Akamaru? Naruto just shrugged. Maybe he realizes I'm the real alpha in this fight. The boy howled in anger and charged at Naruto, who was smirking internally. Anger, check. As the charging boy reached him, Naruto quickly go into his air stance and spun around the attempted claw strike. Facing the boy's back, Naruto touched his back. Every time the boy tried to move, Naruto predicted his movement through the muscles in his back and moved in a way to keep behind him. As Kiba tried a back kick, Naruto quickly placed a foot in front of Kiba's grounded foot and pulled, knocking him down. Before Kiba could get up, Naruto quickly dropped down so that his knees impacted Kiba's head. Instant KO. Kakashi was now sweating. His students' performances so far was disturbingly weak. They were both knocked out. Naruto then pointed at Sasuke. You're up, duckass. The emo's eyes twitched as he walked into the clearing. I'm an Uchiha. You should give up before a superior opponent like me. Naruto feigned surprise and awe. Oh wow, an Uchiha, I am so not worthy. He then put on a confused face. Oh no, but aren't Uchiha supposed to have the Sharingan? Where's yours? The Avenger scowled and leapt at the blonde, only for Naruto to stick his hands in his pockets and continue to move his body out of the angered boy's blows. I think I'll defeat you in 5 moves, he said with a smile, eyes closed and still dodging Sasuke's strikes. The boy roared and did a sweeping kick to knock Naruto off balance, only for him to jump over it. Naruto then quickly struck points over each of Sasuke's limbs, paralyzing him. He then lifted a fist. Number 5. Nighty-night. Sasuke's world went black. Clearing beside Tezuna's house. Sasuke sat up with a start and immediately groaned from the pain in his head. What the hell happened to me? He thought. He looked toward the sound of a certain someone screeching his name and was immediately assaulted by his pink-haired teammate. Sasuke-kun, Sakura gushed. I was so worried about you when I woke up. That blonde idiot had no right to hurt you. He then remembered his humiliating defeat at the hands of the whiskered blonde and growled. How long was I out? He asked as he tried to separate himself from his overexcited teammate to no avail. Just for an hour. Kakashi-sensei is having us climb trees without our hands as a chakra control exercise, while the Kumo team went somewhere else to train. Apparently, they already knew how to do it. He stood himself up shakily as their sensei jumped down in front of them. How are you feeling, Sasuke? You got hit pretty hard back there. He received a grunt in response and I smiled. Now, as Sakura probably already told you, we are learning how to climb trees without our hands. This is made possible by using chakra to stick to a surface and move as if you're walking or running normally. If you use too much chakra, the surface will explode, too little, and you will slip off. He then motioned for Sasuke to try. Sasuke immediately ran at the tree. If that blonde can do it, so can I. As soon as his foot touched the trunk of the tree, he flew back in an explosion, tumbling on the ground. Groaning, he looked up at the howling of laughter and saw his teammate Kiba standing on a branch laughing at him. Ha ha ha, some rookie of the year you are. He mocked. You can't even do a simple exercise like this. Sasuke growled and ran at the tree again, only for the same thing to happen. Elsewhere. The Kumo team decided to separate from their temporary allies to do some personal training. Alright you two, it's time for the meeting between the Biju, their sensei rapped. They were sitting on the ground in a small circle facing each other. He then brought out his fist in front of him. Give me a tap and close them beady little eyes. I promise you'll be in for a surprise. The two young Jinchuriki looked at each other in confusion and hesitantly brought their fists to meet their senseis. As soon as Naruto closed his eyes, he found himself in a pure white space with no end in sight. What the hell? Naruto yelled in shock. He looked down and noticed that Kyuubi was back in her fox form. As he looked around, he noticed that he was standing on his tenant in her giant fox form. What the hell? He yelled in shock. He then noticed that they weren't the only ones in the room. Yujito was standing on a giant cat that looked like it was made of blue flames. The cat had different colored eyes and had 2 tails. His sensei was some kind of giant hybrid between an ox and an octopus. The top half of the creature had the semblance of an ox with one of its horns cut off, and the bottom half was an octopus with 8 tentacles. It's a meeting between the Jinchuriki, he said, only to be flicked in the head by the Biju below him. Shut the hell up, B. The Hachibi shouted. How many times do I have to tell you to stop that crap you call rapping? Ahachi, why gotta be diss the rap? The other two, Jinchuriki and Biju, could only sweat drop at the pair's antics. Naruto looked down at his Biju. Nakyubi-chan, why are you back in your fox form? He questioned. I thought you hated it. When we are in this space, we are all seen in our Biju forms. She explained. The Nibi then came up to them. I've been waiting to meet you for a long time, Naruto-kun. The two-tail purred. I could just eat you up, she chirped happily. Yujito slapped her hand down on the cat's head, blushing furiously. Nibi, cut it out, she shouted, embarrassed with her friend's behavior. Ah, kitten, you know it's true. Nibi whined. She then seemed to smile slyly. Aren't you always telling me how you think Naruto is so se dash? Shut up, shut up, shut up. Yujito screamed with her face as red as a tomato. Damn it, Nibi, stop talking. Now Naruto and Kyubi were the only ones sweat dropping, wondering if they were the only normal pair in the group. Naruto coughed into his fist to break up his bickering team. Why are we here, B-sensei? We're here to see how many tails you can be. Naruto looked to the Hachibi with a questioning look. What he meant was that we need to know how many tails you can currently handle before you become berserk. The ox sighed. Why couldn't he have been sealed inside a normal person? Naruto nodded in understanding, but then opened his mouth again, wondering how that would be possible. Sensing the question he was about to ask, the Hachibi explained. You will steadily be given our chakra until you reach your limit. There are 2 stages a Jinchuriki has when using their Biju's chakra. There is the initial form, which, when in version 1, the Jinchuriki will be covered in a bubbling shroud of chakra, and in version 2 you will be covered by a denser level of chakra that will look like a humanoid shape of your respective Biju. The second form is called the Biju form, when you will actually be able to transform into your Biju. Naruto once again nodded at the reasoning. For the next half hour, Naruto and Yujito were steadily fed chakra. They eventually concluded that Naruto could only handle 2 tails of chakra, while Yujito could handle 1. Okay, you fools, it's time to get up and play with the tools. Naruto and Yujito could only glare weakly at their sensei's choice of speaking. Outside the shared mindscape, the 3 Kyumonin opened their eyes and blinked at the setting sun. Apparently, they were busy longer than they had imagined. As they got up, Naruto stiffened and threw a kunai into the trees only for the person to duck and roll toward them. What the hell are you doing here? Naruto growled as the person revealed himself to be Sasuke. Completely ignoring the fact that he had been caught in the act of what was obviously spying, Sasuke scoffed. What kind of training was that? All you guys did was bump fists and stay still for hours. Naruto snarled at him. It was good enough for me to be able to kick your ass, Sasuke-chan, he said smugly. The Avenger glared at him for the reminder of his humiliating defeat and turned away from them. Tsunami told me to get you guys for dinner. Everyone is already there. He then walked out of sight. Tazuna's house. Dinner at the table was a very awkward event. The Konoha Genin were glaring at the Kyumo team, and the Kyumo team were ignoring them. Tazuna and his daughter were glancing nervously between them, as if expecting one of them to suddenly jump over the table to attack. All of a sudden, the small boy who hadn't said a word stood up and looked at the ninja. Why are you here anyway? Why are you trying so hard? No matter how much you try, Gato's men will kill you, he yelled. The strong kill the weak. You're just going to be slaughtered. Sasuke scoffed at the boy. Kid, I'm an Uchiha. We're the best. No one can beat me. Naruto raised his hand. Except me. And Yujito, most likely. A lot of Genin, and every Chūnin and Jounin in the elemental nations. But yeah, if you don't count that you are the best, he said with a smirk. And I have to ask again, where's your Sharingan? I mean, it doesn't make a difference since I have measures to prevent you from copying me. But aren't Uchiha supposed to have those eyes? If you don't have them, you aren't one. Yujito laughed at the expression of anger and humiliation of the emo's face. Shut up, dope. Don't talk to Sasuke-kun like that. Guess who? Straight face. Naruto just continued eating with a smug air around him. Shut up. You don't know anything about our country's suffering. You guys always act so cheerful and happy. You don't know how hard life can be. Inari and the rest of the group, besides the Kyumo team, gasped at the sudden oppressive feeling coming from the whiskered blonde. Naruto was glaring at Imari out of the corner of his now blood-red eyes. He turned his face to Imari and looked at him for a few minutes. Finally, you are weak. He said darkly. You act like you know suffering, yet you have a mother and grandfather who love you and would do anything for you. Your grandfather is currently risking his life to create something so that he can give you a better future. I'm sorry that you lost your father figure, but shit happens. People die. Inari looked like he was going to interrupt before he was cut off. Let me tell you something. Naruto continued. In the elemental nations, there are 9 creatures called Biju. These creatures are feared by the ninja villages, but are wanted for their vast power. To use them, the ninja villages came up with a way to seal these creatures into what everyone calls Jinchuriki. These Jinchuriki are scorned and feared all their life. Assassins are sent after them, and they are ridiculed. No one wants anything to do with them, and the superiors use them as tools, nothing more and nothing less. Only a few places will treat them as humans they have to fight just to survive. Naruto took deep breath and looked at Inari and saw his eyes wide with horror. There are 9 people who are currently suffering because of the idiots of this world who can't tell the difference between a jailer and his prisoner. He lifted up his shirt to reveal the hack no Fuinshiki, 8 trigram sealing method, that was visible on his stomach, gaining gasps from all around him. So stop being such baby and get over yourself. You don't know the meaning of suffering. Naruto then stood up and started walking toward the door, only to stop and turn his head back to the crying boy. You've never fought for a thing in your life, yet you complain like a bitch. He then left. Next morning, Haku was walking to a clearing where she knew there were herbs that she would be able to use to heal her master. As she entered the clearing, she noticed the blonde who had attacked her laying in the center of the field, seemingly asleep. As she was about to run, she stopped herself. This would be the perfect chance to eliminate him so that he doesn't interfere with Zabuza-sama's plans. She walked up to him and, bending down, reached for his neck, only for a hand to grab her. I wouldn't do that, I were you. Naruto. He had known she was there as soon as she came into the clearing. No matter how lightly you step, you will still make vibrations in the earth, and he used that to an extent, being nowhere near perfect. He could feel how her heartbeat had quickened as she approached him, and, guessing what she was about to do, reached out his hand to grab hers. I wouldn't do that if I were you. When her eyes widened in surprise, then fear, Naruto decided to give a break. If you had tried that with anyone else, things would have been ugly. You don't just come up to someone in the middle of nowhere to wake them up. My name is Naruto, by the way. He couldn't help but notice the relief in her eyes as he released her. I am Haku. I will try to be more cautious from now on, Naruto-san. She then pretended to observe his headband. Are you a ninja, Naruto-san? He had to grin at that. What a good actor, he thought in amusement. Yes, I am Haku-san. If I may ask, why are you out here? A pretty woman such as yourself shouldn't be alone. She lifted up the basket she was carrying. I am collecting herbs for a sick friend of mine. Would you like to help? He nodded in acceptance. For a period of time, the two collected herbs that Haku pointed out until... Tell me, Naruto-san, do you have anyone precious to you? Naruto thought about his village Kimogakure. He thought about his friends, Reikage and Sensei. He finally thought about Kyubi and Yujito and grinned. Of course I do. I would do anything for my precious people. Haku giggled at this. I believe that when a person has something important to protect, that is when they are truly strong. She motioned to the herbs they had collected. These will be used to create a medicine for my precious person. Like you, I would do anything for him. Naruto stood up. That's a great way to think, Haku-san. I hope we meet again soon. Haku nodded to him. As do I. By the way, I'm a guy. Naruto snorted at that as he walked again. I call bull. There ain't no way a guy smells like that. You can't fool me, Haku. Just like you can't hide the fact that your precious person is Zabuza. Haku gasped and turned toward him, pulling Sunban out of her sleeve as she did. He was gone. Tazuna's house. As Naruto was about to open the door, he had to leap back from it opening abruptly and avoided a purple-clad blur leap at him. Where the hell have you been? He laughed nervously and scratched the back of his head. Hey Yujito-chan, what's up? He couldn't help but gulp at the sight of his teammate glaring at him. Don't you Yujito-chan me. He yelped as she jumped at him again. You've been gone all night. Yujito-chan calmed down. He pleaded, only to get tackled and be straggled by the enraged Kunoichi. Take your beating like a man. Inside the house. Everyone was in the living room when they heard a scream. Not the face, not the face. The face, All the guys couldn't help but wince at this, even the stoic Uchiha. 1 week later, Naruto slumped at the table. Ever since that fiasco, Yujito hadn't talked to him. Why'd she have to be so harsh? I didn't do anything wrong. You're an idiot, Naruto-kun. He gained a confused look at that. What's that supposed to mean, Kyubi-chan? Kyubi-chan. He was broken out his thoughts by Karabi. Nino, what did you do? The kitty's been mad at you. He scoffed at that. Yeah, I could tell as she beat the crap out of me. He said sarcastically. What was that, Naruto-kun? He paled at the creepy smile Yujito was wearing. And nothing. Tsunami decided to intervene. Father, we need some supplies from the market. Could you get out and get them? Naruto perked up at this. Zabuza was supposed to make his move soon, and he couldn't leave Tazuna alone and get captured. I'll go with you. I don't feel like staying cooped up here. Later. Naruto couldn't believe his eyes. He and Tazuna were currently walking through the town, and it was depressing to say the least. Everywhere you looked, there were homeless people sitting on the street wearing rags as clothing. Orphans were running around, begging people for food. Shops had almost nothing to sell, and most were closed down. This is how we've had to live. Tazuna started. Ever since Gato came, he has taxed us and taken all of our money. His men have terrorized us, taking women and trashing shops. That is why I am building the bridge. It's our only hope to dash. He was interrupted by a commotion in the street. A huge crowd was forming, and as they walked up to the people, they heard the whispering. Those men came again. Why won't they just leave us alone? Can't they see we've suffered enough? That poor man. Tazuna walked up to a man. Jichi, what's going on? The man turned to them. Tazuna, you have to get out of here. Gato's men came back, and they are messing with the shop owner. If they catch you, you're dead. Whatever else he was going to say was lost to Naruto as he started pushing his way through the crowd, coming out of it to see a group of thugs in front of an old shop owner. You haven't been paying the rent for that shop, old man. One of the thugs, obviously the leader of the group, told the man. You either pay up or lose the place. I don't have any of you damn money, you bastards. This shop has been in my family for years. You can't just take it from me. The thugs grinned. We're not going to take it from you. The leader said. We're going to burn it to the ground. 2 thugs grabbed the man and held him down as 4 other men started pouring oil all over the shop. While this was going on, the leader knelt down next to the shopkeeper. And after that, we'll kill you. He then stood up and walked up to the store, lighting a match along the way. Just as the store was starting to burn, a blast of water doused it. What the? The 4 thugs plus leader turned around only to see a blonde kid with red tips helping the old man to his feet. The 2 thugs that used to be holding the shop owner were passed out at their feet. The leader's face twisted into a scowl. You punk. What the hell do you think you're doing? The blonde raised an eyebrow. I'm saving an innocent man and his store. If you leave now, we won't beat the crap out of you. Leave the grandpa behind. The teen smirked at this. How about? No. The leader turned to his 4 companions. What are you guys doing just standing there? Get him. They all charged at the teen, not noticing his smirk widen at the sight. 10 minutes later. Naruto was now following the leader of the thugs through the forest. He had sent Tazuna back to the house. It had taken less than a minute to utterly destroy the group, and he had then asked the leader to show him to their base. All the while he was smiling cheerfully and holding one of his swords to his neck. Needless to say, the leader quickly complied. As Naruto was following the thug spoke up. You are dead, punk. As soon as you step up to the hideout, we'll just kill you. You stand no chance. Naruto just dug his sword deeper into the man's neck and chuckled. I don't think you need to worry about that. Just keep walking. How far are we? Almost there. They came out of the forest just to see a huge mansion in a clearing 100 yards away from them. Naruto pushed the man forward. Get the hell out of here. The man ran off into the building, and Naruto took a deep breath. Listen up, you shitty bastards. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. You can either come out single file or all at once. Either way, prepare for the ASS kicking of a lifetime. Come on out here and die. After his proclamation, Naruto heard a commotion inside the mansion, and about 100 thugs started to burst out into the clearing screaming about killing him. As soon as they saw him, they started laughing. The hell? It's just a dumb blonde. Go home, little boy, before we kill you. We'll let what you said slide this once. Just get the hell out of here. One of them said cockily. So you have all these men behind you, yet you're too scared to take me on? Stop your bitching and fight. Naruto flipped them off as he said this and gave them the come-on gesture. All the thugs roared and charged him. Naruto frowned as he raised his arms straight out in front of him with the palms facing the ground and concentrated. 90 yards. Naruto let his control over the earth flow through his body. 75 yards. The men were screaming, but Naruto completely ignored them. He let his awareness reach out, feeling how the earth strained against him. 50 yards. His arms started shaking with the power he was containing. 25 yards. He let it burst, clenching his hands and causing a huge dust cloud to suddenly come out of the earth. Screams of confusion and surprise erupted from the cloud he had created. Naruto grinned evilly as he unsealed his Dao swords and slowly walked into the cloud. He felt where each thug was located and started the massacre. He was cutting down thugs left and right until there were only 2 left. He thrust both his hands down and cleared the dust cloud. 2 men were standing directly in front on him. One was a light-skinned male wearing a purple hat and blue jacket. The other was in a loose kimono with the top half tied around his waist. There was a long tattoo stretching all along the left side of his body. He was carrying a long sword with him. The 2 men could only stare at the sight of roughly 100 men on the ground behind him, either moaning in pain or not moving at all. Snapping their eyes back to him, they let out a war cry before attempting to behead him together. Naruto simply ducked below the swings and, bringing both his swords back, stabbed them straight in the gut. Their eyes bugged out as they coughed up blood and fell as soon as the blades left their bodies. One of them, the tattoo guy, coughed weakly and muttered, "You and all your ninja friends are going to die. That bastard swordsman and his bitch are going to kill them as soon as they reach the bridge." Naruto's eyes widened and then narrowed in hate. He knelt down beside the man and placed one of his swords at his neck. "Then I'll see you in hell, team." He swiftly cut the man's head off and did the same to the other. He then stood up and started running in the direction of the bridge. "Please don't let me be too late." 10 minutes before. Bridge. The Konoha team and the 2 remaining members of Kumo were leading Tazuna to the bridge. When they asked him why Naruto had not been with them, he explained what happened to the thugs and just said that Naruto was dealing with them. So, much to Yujito's ire, they had left it at that and decided to head to the bridge to guard the bridge builder. As soon as they reached the bridge, however, they immediately noticed the Maso builders on the ground, dead. Tazuna ran to them, trying to revive them, only for a mist to appear over the bridge. They all got their guard up as the missing Nin himself appeared before them. Haku stood next to him, still wearing the fake Hunter Nin mask. Sasuke started shaking. "Long time no see, Kakashi." He created water clones around them. "But did you really have to call for backup? Look at the brat, he's already shaking." The Uchiha scoffed arrogantly. "I'm not shaking out of fear." He blurred out of existence and popped the clones. "I'm shaking in excitement." He finished dramatically amid his fan bitches' shrieks of praise. He pointed to Haku. "The masked one is mine." They both leapt at each other, spinning as they tried to cut the other. As they were fighting, Karabi and Kakashi stepped up in front of Zabuza. "Ono, are you going to help me?" Kakashi asked with an eye smile. The Jinchuriki's response was simply to leap at Zabuza, 2 blades in his hand. Zabuza grunted at the force the dark-skinned ninja possessed with his swing. "Who the hell are you?" Karabi grinned. "I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee, 'cause I'm Karabi the Hachibi Jinchuriki." He brought out all his swords and started spinning towards the demon of the mist. Zabuza cursed as he lifted his Kubikirabocho to block the eccentric man's swords. He then had to jump back as Kakashi came at him with 2 kunai from the side. Kiba, seeing that Sasuke was about to be stabbed by a technique from the masked apprentice, decided to get into the action. "Let's go, Akamaru." Arf. They both ran forward and started spinning. Gutsuga. Haku had to jump back and end his technique before she could get drilled by the 2 companions. "You should not have interfered. You will all be killed by my technique now." Both teens shivered involuntarily as the air began to chill in an alarming rate as Haku made hand seals. Hayaton Makio Hyosho. Ice mirrors appeared, creating a dome around them. Haku stepped into one of them, and her image appeared in all the mirrors. Sasuke, Kiba, and Akamaru spun around. looking for a sign of finding the real one. That was when the Senbon came. They rained down on the ninjas, strangely missing the dog. As Sasuke was being peppered by the tools, he was enraged. He was an Uchiha, an elite. No one was better than him. Not this Senbon-wielding freak, and definitely not that spiky blonde dope. He needed to get out of there. He was supposed to kill Itachi. He was an avenger. He looked in a gap between two mirrors and saw what could save him. He struggled to do the necessary hand seals. On the last seal, he couldn't help but smirk. Be honored that you were used to save the heir to the great Uchiha. He activated the jutsu just as dozens of Senbon were bearing down on him. Naruto. He was coming up to the bridge. If he hadn't had his speed techniques, he would still be on the other side of the island. Hold on guys, I'm coming. He hit the bridge and continued toward the sound of fighting. Just in time to see the Uchiha use a replacement on Yujito. She was so surprised by the turn of events that she was unable to avoid the Senbon. Therefore, she was peppered with the sharp tools. She collapsed. Ba-bump. Ba-bump. No. Ba-bump, ba-bump. Ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. No. B-A-bump, B-A-bump, B-A-bump. B-A-bump, 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 B-A_bump, B-A-bump, B-A-bump, a bump, a bump. No. He roared as chakra exploded around him. He blurred out of existence, racing directly at the huge dome of ice that surrounded his teammate. He made sure to deck the smug Uchiha and appeared directly over the dome, his slitted pupils now blood red, face twisted in pain and anger, and a small but highly concentrated fire in the palm of his hand. Dai! He slammed the flame into the dome, causing it to explode. Haku jumped out of his shattered technique, only to be jumped by the enraged Jinchuriki. Daikyu? He punctuated each statement with a punch to the face, obliterating the fake Hunter Nin's mask. When he took a pause in his beatdown and looked at her, she looked completely defeated and just lay there as if waiting for death. He couldn't take it and broke down crying, devastated at his loss. Haku weakly coughed. Not dead. Didn't hit any vital points. Just knocked out. Naruto looked up hopefully at that, only to freeze at the girl's next words. Naruto-san, please kill me. She pleaded. I have been defeated. I am a broken weapon. Zabuza-sama has no need for M-. A cry of pain rang out, and they looked over to the sound. Apparently Karabi had stopped messing around as soon as he saw one of his genin get cut down. He had channeled his right unchakra throughout his blades, cut through Kubikirabocho, and stabbed Zabuza through with them all, intentionally missing killing shots. Zabuza was down. Kakashi brought a hand encased in lightning to the defeated man's throat. Surrender. They heard clapping. A big crowd of thugs were walking down the bridge toward them, a midget at the very front. Hee, you're getting your ass handed to you, Zabuza. Zabuza struggled to turn his head toward the voice. Gato, what are you doing here? The tyrant's smile widened. The plan has changed, Zabuza. Well, actually this has been my plan from the very start. You see, I'm going to kill you. I was never even going to pay you. Hiring ninjas affiliated with a village are too expensive. If you hire missing means no one will try to avenge them, and you even get the added bonus from the bounties. Zabuza turned to Kakashi. Well, Kakashi, looks like I have no reason to continue this fight even if I could. I surrender. Gato was laughing. Kill them all and bring me to Zuna's head. He then smiled lecherously. And bring me the girls too, especially that bitch to Zabuza's. I need to get her back for breaking my arm. Pity the blonde was killed. The thugs roared in agreement and rushed forward. OHLNO, a giant blast of fire swept in front of them and stopped them in their tracks. Naruto slowly walked toward the fire he created, eyes literally glowing with the anger he felt. He opened up a path in the fire to walk through only to close it back up. On the outside, all anyone could hear were the screams of those inside of a monster and a demon. Suddenly, Gato came flying out of the flames. He was followed closely by Naruto, whose swords were covered in blood. Gato weakly got onto his knees in front of Naruto. Please spare me. I'll give you anything, woman. Power, money. Just have mercy. Naruto, I smiled at him. Anything. Gato seized onto this chance. Yes, just don't kill me. Naruto picked Gato up. Go to hell, you bastard. He threw the midget over the edge of the building, screaming along the way. Zabuza started laughing. He couldn't help it. This blonde gaki had just beaten his apprentice, and then proceeded to take out about 100 thugs, all apparently without a scratch. That settled it. These Chūnin were amazing. Unknown. Naruto and his team were walking peacefully through the forest. Having just completed a mission, they didn't have to rush back to their village. Naruto turned back to smile at Haku, who was walking slightly behind them in her Chūnin outfit. Haku smiled back at him, albeit a little shakily. Naruto couldn't help but remember how they came to have their new teammate. Flashback. Naruto and his team were standing with Zabuza and Haku at the bridge. It had been practically a week since the great battle and Gado's tragic death. The bridge was now finished and named the Great Kumo Bridge, which was hilarious really since they were currently in Fire Country. So you're really leaving? Naruto asked the duo. Kumo could really benefit from gaining you in our village. I've got to say no, brat. There's still a civil war going on in Kiri, and it's about time I stopped hiding and helped the rebels out. Mei is going to kill me, though. He muttered the last part to himself. He then perked up. Hey Gaki, get your ass over her. I've got something to tell you. Naruto quirked an eyebrow, but followed Zabuza nonetheless. After they got out of anyone's hearing, Zabuza turned back to Naruto. Listen, Naruto, I can't bring Haku with me. The civil war is going to be brutal. The Mizukage is a freaking Jinchuriki, and the rebels have a long way to go before we can win this war. He sighed. What I'm trying to say is take Haku with you. Naruto cut him off. Okay. Zabuza blinked at him blankly. Okay. No arguments, no begging, just okay. Naruto adopted a deadpan look. I was just asking you two if you wanted to join Kumo. Haku could join our team. We need a 3-person cell anyway. He started walking back to the group. Now come on, we need to tell everyone the good news. As soon as they reached the group, Haku walked to Zabuza only for him to shake his head at her. You aren't coming with me, Haku. Haku blinked and then lowered her head to try and hide the tears. Yes, Zabuza-sama. I failed you as a tool. He sighed and lifted her head back up. Damn it, girl. No more of that tool crap. And stop with this, Sama. You are your own person, your own life. My life isn't the life you need to live. Start your own path. You'll be going to Kumobikure with the Gaki now. At her nod, he continued. You'll be taking my name as well. Her eyes immediately latched onto his and filled with tears as he pulled her into an awkward hug. Live well, Haku Momochi. He let go and walked away. As soon as he reached the edge of the clearing, he jumped into the trees and was gone. Flashback end. He then scowled as he remembered what had happened with the Konoha team. Flashback. Naruto was sitting next to a sleeping Yujito back at Tezuna's place. Even though she was a Jinchuriki like him, her healing wasn't as good as his. This was the reason why she was still unconscious and bandaged in places. Even though Haku wasn't trying to kill, it was still very effective. As he stared at Yujito's sleeping form, Kyubi decided to speak up. Naruto-kun, it wasn't your fault. You went as fast as you could. She's going to be fine. No, I should have been faster. I have control over the elements. I'm practically a god. There must have been something I could do. He had to hold his head from the sudden pain he felt from his tenant. Dumbass, you're nowhere near mastering your ability, and I swear I will come out of this seal and rip you a new asshole if you so much as imagine you're a god. The last thing I need is a partner who has a fucking god complex. She raged. Naruto sat up straight and paled at the image her threat presented. Before he could respond, he was interrupted by the arrival of Kakashi. Naruto, we need to talk. Naruto turned his back to him, and he sighed. Look, what Sasuke did. He almost killed my teammate to save his own worthless skin. I'm sure he didn't mean to. I saw him create the seals, and I saw his face when he succeeded Hatake. Whatever the case, attacking him like that. He deserved it. Kakashi sighed again. It looked like there was no way he could win the argument, so he changed the subject. What are you doing with Kumobikure, Naruto? You were born in Konoha. Konoha is your home. Naruto scoffed. Konoha is the place of every unhappy memory I have. I have no love for the place. He then turned his partially towards Kakashi and looked at him out of the corner of his eye. I know you're going to tell the old man about me when you get back. Tell him I have no intention of ever defecting to that hellhole. Tell him if he sends anyone after me, I will kill them. Tell him that I am now a proud genin of Kumobikure no Sato. Tell him that I will soon be the Raikage. Leave now. With that, Naruto turned back to his injured teammate, clearly dismissing the masked jounin. As Naruto heard Kakashi walk off, he couldn't help but sigh. He reached out to move his right hand through his fellow blonde's hair. This is going to bite me in the ass, Yujito-chan. Flashback end. Naruto then thought of a way to cheer his new teammate up. Haku-chan, he called. When she looked at him, he raised one arm at his side slowly and fluidly. As his arm raised, a trail of water appeared and grew along his movements. He then brought his hand towards himself, and the water followed his movement, condensing into a ball. He then raised his other arm and, with the ball of water between them, concentrated. Haku gasped as the water turned to ice. You have my bloodline? She couldn't help but be disappointed when he shook his head. No, he explained. I have something different. My bloodline allows me to have complete control over the elements. Through practice, I am able to change water to ice. He looked at Haku and smiled. But I could use some help. Do you think you could teach me? This is the best I can do for right now. Haku beamed at him and nodded. I'd be honored, Naruto-kun. They were not aware of how their conversation was affecting their long blonde-haired companion. Growling, Kitten, get that girl away from your mate before she steals him. Yujito sputtered. Wait, mate. Naruto is not my mate. Oh, come on, Kitten. You and I both know that you like him, and you remember how he stayed with you while you were injured. What a gentleman. Her tenant purred. Yujito blushed as she remembered how she woke up only to see her blonde companion sleeping beside her. As soon as he saw her awake, he had hugged her and had asked her repeatedly if she was all right, and that he was so sorry that he hadn't been faster. Nibi, knowing Yujito was thinking about it, purred in approval. Maybe you should give him something special to thank him for his care. Yujito blushed at the insinuation and immediately cut the link, thankful she had the ability. As she was talking to her inner pervert, she had completely missed the eagle that came, gave their sensei a scroll, and left. Yes, Kumo has eagles while Konoha has hawks. Or were they falcons? She was finally brought back to earth by Naruto, waving his hand in front of her face repeatedly. Yujito! Yujito! She jumped at the shout. What? Naruto pointed at Karabi, who was looking at the content in the scroll. It looks like we have a new mission already. Stop spacing out, he said and smirked as she pouted. Okay, you fools. Bro wants us to check out a town in lightning. Apparently, there has been a bandit sighting. Naruto grinned at this. Bandits meant there would be a large fight. Let's run, or else I'll burst. We'll see who gets there first. Small village in lightning country. Okay, Team B. Let's see the sights, but don't start any fights. Do not fear, we'll meet back up here. The three separated from their crazy sensei and went in different directions into the village. As Naruto walked around, he saw the suffering the village was going through. It was even worse than Wave. But it wasn't the buildings. The buildings were just fine. It was the villagers. The streets were completely empty. There were no kids playing, no adults shopping and giving the daily gossip. All the houses had curtains covering the windows. When Naruto looked at the windows, he could swear he saw people peeking through gaps. Naruto sighed. This place is a ghost town. You said it, kid. He was pleasantly surprised. You're up? I would think you'd still be asleep. I sensed a tremendous amount of hate around here and decided to tell you. Naruto stopped walking at this and tilted his head. I've been meaning to ask why you can do that, but I can't. It would be a useful ability to have, he said, honestly intrigued. Will you could have this ability. He perked up at this. But you'd have to take my chakra to do that, and of course I would fight you for it. And I'll be in my Biju form. She giggled as he paled dramatically and stuttered. Are you fucking with me? I'm a lot of things, but suicidal is not one of them. His tenant laughed some more before suddenly turning serious. You will have to do it eventually. You need my power to be able to truly control your power. Naruto started to sweat. But can't you just give it to me? I thought we were friends. He heard a sigh in his head. We are kit, but you have to understand that as Biju, our chakra is everything to us. No matter how much I like you, I will instinctually fight you over control. Don't worry about it right now, she said. You have a long way to go before you reach that level. She then cut the link. Naruto sighed at the revelation and noticed the sun was starting to set. I'd better get back and meet with the others. Konoha. Team 7 arrived to the gates of their village. Okay, team. Mission accomplished. Their sensei drawled behind his book. Get yourselves home. You have a week to recuperate, and then meet back up at Training Ground 7. His three genin nodded and went their separate ways. Well, Kiba did. Sakura decided to follow Sasuke and pester him repeatedly for a date to celebrate. Kakashi sighed at his team's antics and used the Shunshin to appear before the Hokage tower. He walked up the stairs to get to his Kage's office and knocked on the door. Enter. He opened the door to see the aged Kage sitting behind his desk, apparently doing paperwork. Team Kakashi reporting back from the completion of C-rank turned A-rank mission. Sarutobi's eyes narrowed. Report. Kakashi told him everything that had happened, explaining how the demon brothers first ambushed them, then Tezuna's confession. He then told his leader about his fight with Zabuza. When he got to the point of Zabuza's defeat and the Hunter Nin, he hesitated. Hokage-sama. That's when one Naruto Uzumaki showed up. Sarutobi's eyes widened. Ever since the hyper-blonde had made his escape, the Kage made it his mission to find him, but to no avail. He had even tasked his student, Jiraiya, to use his spy network to find the boy. After many years of searching, Sarutobi had to admit defeat. The council had been furious about the disappearance of their weapon, demanding that he put the boy in the bingo book as a missing nin. He quickly dismissed this, pointing out that Naruto hadn't even been a ninja at the time and was only a civilian. Danzo had been the most furious out of any of them. Sarutobi knew of his plans to gain control over the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and knew this put a damper in his ambition. How is this possible? He demanded. Kakashi snapped his book. Naruto Uzumaki at first appeared to attack the Hunter Nin, noticing that she was a fake. He attacked her with 2 Dao swords in an amazing show of Kenjutsu. When the Hunter Nin fled, the rest of his team appeared. Team. The Kage interrupted, confused. Kakashi closed his eyes. Hokage-sama Naruto is a ninja of Kumogakure no Sato. Sarutobi slumped back into his chair stunned. Naruto was a ninja of another village. He waved the one-eyed Jounin on. Continue. Kakashi reported the encounter between the two teams, and then the fight at the bridge. Naruto's teammate, Yujito Ni, had been taken down. In his rage, Naruto destroyed the jutsu of the masked girl with a level of fire control I've never seen before. I believe that is his element, seeing how he then brought down a couple hundred bandits. Sarutobi already knew this due to the incident that gave Naruto the ability to escape. He briefly wondered about the gust of wind that he had seen, but dismissed it. Kakashi then finished his report. Wave is now free. Zabuza and the girl named Haku disappeared. Naruto said if we sent anyone after him, he would kill them. The aged Kage sighed at all he had heard and dismissed the Jounin. Sarutobi turned in his chair and looked out the window of his office to see the Hokage monument. He was specifically looking at the image of the 4th Hokage. What would you have done in this situation, Minato? Bandit camp. Team B were currently just outside the bandit camp. It had only taken them a few hours to find the bandits. It was completely dark. Perfect for the mission they were to complete. Okay, everyone, you know the plan. Their sensei said, completely serious. We have to do this quickly. There is a high chance they could have hostages. Hi. They chorused. Go. Haku immediately shot off, appearing between 2 guards stationed in front of the camp, shocking them. What th-? They started to say before she silenced them with well-thrown Senbon. Yujito and B raced past him as he went off to find more guards, Naruto trailing behind them. While their job was to kill the bandits, his was to free the prisoners. As Naruto ran through the camp, he saw bandits run around frantically, trying to figure out what was going on. He saw Yujito attack them with her taijutsu, claws extended. B was somewhere else cutting them down. Naruto reached the center of the camp and came before the biggest tent there. He ducked into the tent and immediately bristled in anger and disbelief. Half-naked girls of all ages were tied up on the floor. As he approached them, they noticed him and gained looks of terror. Shoo. He tried to soothe them. It's all right. My team and I are here to save you. They continued to stare in fear, and with a start he realized that they weren't looking at him. They were looking behind him. Cursing, he ducked. Whoosh. The blade swept over his, intent on decapitating him. He quickly flipped out of the tent and into the clearing. His assailant followed him out. As he got a good look at the man, he couldn't help but think he looked familiar. The man had green hair that spiked down and was wearing a full-bodied sleeveless white suit with a green stripe down the middle. He wore a headband symbolizing Amigakure on his forehead. He also had a large umbrella on his back. It was only when Naruto looked at the blade did he realize who it was. The blade looked like it was made completely with lightning with a strange guard. He pointed at the man. "You're Aoi Rokusho, aren't you? Missing Nin of Konoha." The man smirked. "That's right, brat. Seems like I'm famous even in Kumo." Naruto ignored the comment and pointed at the blade. "So that must be the Raijin no Ken. Am I correct?" Aoi laughed insanely, right again. "With this blade, I'm invincible." Naruto smirked and unsealed his swords. "Perfect. I've always wanted to fight you." He leapt at the man. Aoi laughed. "Fool. The sword of Raijin can cut through anything." He lifted up the glowing blade to block Naruto's attack, expecting it to cut right through and kill the blonde. He did not expect the Raijin to be stopped as if it were a regular blade. What is this?" the traitor cried. "It was impossible. Nothing should be able to stand to the power of the Raijin." Naruto smirked. "Tell me, Aoi, you used to be an instructor in Konoha. What element trumps lightning?" Aoi's eyes widened as a light hum could be heard from the blades, and he could just barely see the blue hue surrounding the Dao blades. "I'm impossible," he cried. "You surrounded your blades with wind chakra?" Naruto smirked and pushed him off, breaking their deadlock. Ding ding ding. Right in one asshole. He charged the man again. "Now let's see you fight Mr. Invincible." Aoi growled and parried one blade, ducked the other, and once again tried to decapitate the Jinchuriki. Naruto ducked under the swing and did a backflip, snapping Aoi's head up with a kick. As Aoi stumbled back, Naruto ran forward and started furiously slashing at the man, forcing him on the defensive just to survive. Aoi snarled tch. He leapt back to avoid being skewered and panted. Naruto stared blankly at him. "You're not that good, are you? You're pretty average in skill." Aoi howled in anger and deactivated his sword, only to reach for the umbrella on his back and fling it into the air where it hovered. He put his hands in a seal. "Let's see you survive this." The umbrella started to shoot out sunbon from its hidden compartments, all heading towards the Jinchuriki. The impact created a large cloud of dust, obstructing his view. Aoi smirked, thinking he had killed the genin. "Stupid brat underestimated me." He watched as the cloud disappeared, only to see a wall made of earth in front of him, covered in hundreds of sunbon. Just as his eyes widened, a section of the wall disconnected and went sliding at him. Sure dash. He leapt to the side, barely avoiding it, only for the remaining wall to do the same. Being in midair, there was nothing he could do. Wham! He was crushed against the slab of rock as it continued moving, only to fly back as it came to a stop. Groaning, Aoi lifted his head to see the two rock formations sink into the ground, until it looked like they never even existed. He got up slowly due to his injuries and looked around, now knowing the fight wasn't over. He didn't see the pillar of earth under him rising to his chin until it was too late. Wham! His head snapped back as he once again went sailing away from the force of the blow. As he fell back to earth on his back, he came face to face with one of his opponent's Dao swords. He coughed weakly. Who the hell are you?" Naruto glared down at him. "I'm Naruto, Uzumaki bitch." Aoi's eyes widened. The damn QB dash. His thoughts were cut off by the removal of his head. Naruto sighed as he picked up the deactivated Raijin and sealed the sword and the head of the now missing Nin into a scroll. After all, Konoha might want their relic back. As he stood back up, he noticed that the screams of the bandits had ended. He shook his head at the headless corpse and walked back into the tent. There were hostages that needed to be saved. Unknown. Report. A man cloaked in shadows said, the only things showing were a pair of purple eyes with rings. 6 spectral humans standing in front of him replied. The Ichibi Jinchuriki is in Suna, Un. The Yanbi, Gobi, and Rokubi currently MIA. We are still searching, though the Nanabai is in Taki. The Nibi and Hachibi are in Kumogakure no Sato. They will make worthy sacrifices for Jashin-sama. The cloaked man turned to the pair that had yet to speak. Itachi, report. What do you have on the QB? The shortest one raised his head to reveal red eyes with 3 commas in them, the Sharingan. This was Itachi Uchiha, Nuke Nin of Konohagakure and responsible for the massacre of the Uchiha clan. The QB Jinchuriki is believed to still be located in Konohagakure no Sato. Kumo. The occupants of the ninja village of Kumogakure no Sato were enjoying and beautiful, Normal day only for heads to turn at the yells coming from their leader's tower. Iron Claw. Bro, let go, yo. Raijiji, get off me. Shut up, you fools. The villagers looked at each other and laughed, seeing this as just a regular occurrence. Inside the tower, the female members of Team Karabi were graced with the sight of their teammate and sensei's heads being surrounded by the clawed hands of their kage. You idiots. You're telling me that not only did you encounter Konoha Nin on your mission, you completed it with them. And then you taken the apprentice of Zabuza. Zabuza, as in the demon of the bloody mist? Who you fought, by the way. Not only that, but you also completely disregarded the fact that the scroll I sent you was for reconnaissance of the village, not to take out the whole camp. It went from a C rank to an A. Naruto raised his right hand from trying to pry the clawed hand off his face. In my defense, he told us the mission. He pointed at their sensei only for their tormentor to turn his full attention on the blonde. Oh no you don't, the muscled leader growled. Instead of running when you saw Aoi, or trying to stall for this idiot. He shook B. You decided to fight him. On your own. He sighed as he let the two go. What do you have to say for yourselves? The two looked at each other and then at him, saying simultaneously, it's your fault for the bad missions. A twitched and decided to escort them out of the tower, with a punch making them sail right out of the window. Clapping his hands together at a job well done, the muscled Kage turned to the next job at hand. Haku couldn't help but slightly hide behind the female blonde's back when the Kage turned his eyes to her. After seeing him utterly manhandle the two males she had been working with, she was understandably cowed. So you want to join Kumo's ninja corps, do you? Haku let out an uncharacteristic squeak at his voice and nodded quickly. Yes, sir. He narrowed his eyes at her. Why? She hesitated. Your team saved me and Zabuza from death, and Naruto defended us from Gato and his men. Even though Zabuza left to fight in Kiri, your team still took me in with open arms. I owe them, and Kumo in extension, my loyalty. I just stared at Haku. After a minute, she started to fidget nervously under his gaze only for him to reach behind his desk to procure a gray forehead protector with the symbol of Kumobikure on it. He threw the protector to her. Congratulations, Haku Momochi, third genin of Team B. Beaming, Haku tied the headband over her forehead as Naruto and B opened the door. Damn it, Gigi, we had to listen to Mabui Nichin yell at us for breaking the windows again. Naruto yelled. He then noticed the new headband. Haku had a grin. Congratulations, Haku. She bowed to him. I will enjoy working with you, Naruto-san. He waved it off. None of that, I hate honorifics. He ignored the Kage's snort. Just call me Naruto or Naruto-kun. We're teammates now. Haku smiled happily. Hi, Naruto-kun. 5 days later. Thump. I could only blink at what seemed like a block of ice was placed on his desk. What the hell is this supposed to be? Naruto smiled happily. It's our mission, Gigi. The Kage looked at the block of ice again. What are you talking about? You were told to capture. He had just noticed the form of a golden retriever in the ice. He looked up at the innocent expression on Naruto's face and sighed. Naruto, unfreeze Okami. Naruto's smile fell. But Gigi, he whined. Now. Naruto sighed and made a hand motion, and the ice melted into water, freeing the now shaking dog. Naruto lowered his hand, and the water fell to the floor. I still think we would be better off without the beast, he muttered. Haku patted his back sympathetically while Yujito and B chuckled. They had been chasing the dog all morning until Naruto had snapped and froze the elusive pet. Before your leave, I have something to talk to you about. We just have to wait for another team. As soon as they said this, there was a knock at the door and Samui, Karui, and Omoi walked in with a blonde-haired man. Team C reporting in, boss. The sensei said. I nodded. As everyone knows, there are only 2 ways to become a Chūnin. One is to have a field promotion during wartime. The other, and most common way, are the Chūnin Exams. These exams are held every 6 months in different villages. Ninjas from all over the world come to these exams to showcase their skills. He said, if a genin performs admirably and shows the necessary ability, they can be promoted to Chūnin. Naruto stepped forward sporting the same confused expression as everyone else. Old man, we know all of this already. Why are you telling us this? Iron Claw. As Naruto struggled against his hand, They turned to the rest of the Genin. As I was going to say before this brat interrupted me, we will be hosting the next Chūnin Exams, which is in a week. Originally, the exams were going to be held in Konoha, but I managed to nominate our village. There is no way Naruto is going to be in Konoha's playing ground. Naruto stiffened at what he said and substituted himself with his sensei. You mean we're going to be in the exams? I smirked. You six are some of the strongest Genin Kumogakure has produced since Darui and C. Of course you'll be in the exams. Seeing as you six are the only Genin we have, you'll have to do all you can to show the world why Kumo should be the strongest village. Everyone, even Naruto, saluted to their rakeage. Yes, sir. Konoha. All ninja Genin and above were standing on the roof of the Hokage mansion in front of their Kage. Sarutobi cleared his throat, silencing the chatter. In 1 week's time, the Chūnin exams will be held in Kumogakure no Sato. At the disbelieving yells from the Jounins, he raised his hand to quiet them. I know that they were supposed to be held here, but the rakeage was quite adamant about it. He now put on a serious face. But this works in our favor. As you all must now know, Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko, is in Kumo. Most of us remember the events that lead to young Uzumaki leaving Konoha. After much discussion with the council and my advisors, I have come to the conclusion that we need Uzumaki back. Kakashi has told me he shows a level of fire manipulation that has never been seen. We will attack Kumo and take our Jinchuriki back in the final exams. We will see if his abilities come from a bloodline, and if it can be reproduced. The ninja of Konoha were stunned. They were going to blatantly attack Kumogakure? Hokage-sama, a random Jounin said. How are we supposed to be able to survive a confrontation with Kumo? If what you say is true, they have 3 Jinchuriki. This is madness. Sarutobi nodded to him. That is exactly why we will be enlisting the help of our allies, Suna. We can bribe them with missions and some money. The Jounin murmured to themselves. Though this was a crazy plan, they knew it needed to be done. Sarutobi turned to the only Jounin that had a Genin team. I want you 4 to make sure your Genin are prepared for the exams. The only way this plan can work is if they make it to the final exams. At that time, I will be able to come and watch, as will the Kazekage. I will also call in Jiraiya. You will not take any suspicious actions before that time. Give them no reason to suspect. Dismissed. 1 week later. Naruto huffed as he walked toward the academy building. Oh, cheer up, Naruto-kun. We'll soon be Chūnin after all. Naruto looked over at overly chipper blonde teammate. But why does it have to happen at the academy? He whined. Haku giggled. Why don't you like your academy? Naruto shuddered. Fangirls. He muttered. Haku turned a questioning glance to Yujito, who explained. Naruto-kun was very popular in the academy. With his skill over the elements and looks, practically all the girls in our class had crushes on him. I still think you should have cut them, kitten. Trying to get your mate. Not now, Nibby. Naruto opened the door for the girls, and they walked into the academy, heading to the top floor. Entering the required room, they saw that the room was huge with doors lining all along the walls. In the very center, different teams were already standing, though they were all separated. Naruto and his team spotted their friends and walked over to them. Hey guys, what's up? We were just talking about how many Konoha teams have come. What if Konoha came here to attack us, and we go to war, and... Omoi was interrupted from his rant when Karui hit over the head. Shut up, Omoi, she shouted. That's not even realistic. Konoha's not that stupid. Omoi held his head in pain as the rest of his friends laughed at his misfortune. At that moment, a dark-skinned man came into the room. Quiet, he shouted. Instant silence. My name is E, and I will be your first proctor for the exams. First rule of the exams, there are no questions. He looked around at the teams. So on that note, any questions? A male from Taki raised his hand, and he smirked. Get the dumbass out of here. The male's eyes widened at his mistake, and his teammates could only glare at him while they were led out of the room. Now that we have gotten rid of the most obvious incompetent ninja, we can begin the exam. All of you will go into a separate room. In these rooms, you will be tested mentally. Please take a slip of paper out of this box and go to your designated room. He held up a box. Each of the Genin walked up to the box, got their number, and went to their door. Good luck, Naruto muttered to his friends. They returned the gesture. Begin, he said. Naruto walked into his room. Inside. As soon as Naruto walked into the room, he noticed how dark it was. The door closed behind him. Guess I go forward, he mused to himself. As soon as he took a step forward, however, his village appeared around him. And it was burning. Naruto looked around in horror as he saw houses crumble, and in the distance, the Reikage Tower collapsed. Naruto. A familiar voice called weakly behind him. Trembling, he turned to see Yujito on the ground, bleeding heavily. A Konoha, Nin stood over her. Did you really think you could escape from us? The ninja sneered. You are our property, and because of you, she will die. He stabbed her, and Yujito went still. Naruto collapsed in shock as he stared at Yujito, her lifeless eyes looking back at him. He did not react as the man walked up to him. Just as the ninja was about to touch him, he heard a QB. Naruto-kun snap out of it. With a great mental push, she expelled the illusion around him, showing that he was kneeling in an empty room, a second door right in front of him. He collapsed onto his side, still in shock over what he had seen. Naruto-kun, it was just an illusion, it wasn't real. QB was worried. She had never seen her container in such a state. After a few minutes, Naruto raised his head and put himself back together. Thank you, QB-chan, he said. If she hadn't done what she did, he knew he would have snapped. You're welcome. Now let's get out of here. He gave her a mental nod, got up, and walked out of the room into what looked like the same room everyone started in. He was not the first to get through, as there was a group gathered in the middle, all looking as shaken as he felt. At the sound of running, Naruto turned only to have to catch a teary-eyed Yujito, who clung to him. He held her as she sobbed quietly into his chest. He was shocked at her reaction, but realized she must have experienced something just as bad as him. 10 minutes later, all the genin that passed stood around them. Naruto's team and Team Samui stood together. The 4 Konoha teams passed, as did Suna, Iwa, Kiri, Taki, and Aim. There were also ninja from less notable locations. He stepped forward. To those who made it through, congratulations are in order. The rooms you entered were full of a gas that creates an illusion of what you most feared. Only those with a strong will and mind could have made it through without cracking. He looked at Naruto and Yujito, with a few exceptions. With a poof of smoke, a dark-skinned man with white, spiky hair appeared. He looked over the group of genin with a bored expression on his face. You let a lot of genin through, don't you think, he said. These brats seem semi-competent, Darui. Darui looked them over again. How dull. He raised his voice. I'm the proctor for the second exam, Darui. All of you follow me. He then walked out. It only took a moment for the rest of the genin to follow him. Naruto and his friends sped up so that they were walking beside him. Hey, Darui. Blondie. Darui smirked at the growl Naruto let out at the name. Are you going to tell us what the next exam is? You can find out with all the rest of the genin. They had by now left the village behind. Muttering, Naruto and his friends slowed down to be in the crowd. After an hour of walking through the mountains of Kumo, they started to hear a booming sound. Naruto and his friends paled. They stopped in front of the edge of a huge drop between 2 mountains. Darui turned to face them. Welcome, he called over the sounds of booming, to the ravine of clashing rocks. Sasuke snorted at this. What kind of stupid name is that? As soon as he said this, a huge rock emerged over the cliff, floating in the air. It continued on down the ravine. It was followed by more. Darui smirked at their reactions. That's why. Some sort of magnetic force allows rocks to float along this stretch of land. There are 2 levels of rocks, and this is the location of the second exam. He then held out a bell. Each team will be given 2 bells. At the end of the ravine is the location for the third exam. To be able to continue to the next exam, you must have 2 bells. The genins whispered excitedly, thinking this test sounded easy. How dull. This test won't be easy. Other teams are allowed to sabotage each other by fighting and taking bells. Also, he was interrupted by 2 rocks crashing into each other and breaking into smaller pieces. That happens. If that isn't enough, at the bottom of this ravine is a raging river. This river is too fast for you to be able to water walk on, mind you. And at the end of it is a 100-foot waterfall. Don't expect to survive. You will have 3 days to complete this exam. Have a member of each team come to grab your bells, then spread out. At the whistle, the test starts. Naruto walked up to Darui and got his team's bells. Darui smiled at him. Good luck, Blondie. Naruto nodded and went back to his team. He handed one to Yujito and put the other in his pocket. We're going after the Uchiha. Yujito and Haku blinked at him. Not that I'm complaining, but why? He smirked mischievously. The Gaki still hasn't learned his lesson from the last time we met and is still stuck up. We'll be showing him how much a name means nothing in this world. Hi teammates matched his grin and nodded. The whistle sounded and Naruto's smile widened. He held up a hand to his teammates as a sign to wait and backed up from the edge. He then ran to the edge, jumped off, free-falling toward the river below, laughing gleefully the whole way. The other teams could only watch in shock as he spun in midair with arms outstretched, only to bring them in at the end of his spin. They then watched as a floated rock not only came right to him, but remained there to catch him. The Genin could only watch as he raised his hand, the piece of earth following his movements and raising as well to appear in front of his team. Yujito and Haku smiled at him. Hop on, ladies. They jumped on and Naruto let go of control of the rock, causing it to start floating down the raven, leaving the gobsmackin'. Is this a word? Genin behind. Okay, so we need to find the Uchiha. How do we do that? Yujito said as they sat in front of each other. It would be nice if he came after us. Haku mused. Oh, we'll find him. The great Uchiha won't pass up a chance for a fight. Honestly, let's just relax until tomorrow. His teammate's sweat dropped as he laid down. They looked at each other, and Yujito shrugged, then laid down as well. Haku could only stare at her teammates. She sighed. I have the weirdest teammates ever. She then smiled. I wouldn't change it for the world. And thus Team B fell asleep, their floating rock heading down the raven. Next day, Team B was woken up to the sight of two rocks coming straight at them, threatening to break them into pieces. Naruto flipped himself up and thrust his hands out on either side of him, causing the two boulders to explode outward. At the noise, the rest of the team woke up, and they looked around to see pieces of rock and dust falling. Naruto scratched the back of his head and grinned. Hell of a wake-up call, don't you think? Good save, Naruto-kun. Thank you, Kyubi-chan. Yujito rubbed her eyes and stretched. Well, now that we're awake, shall we look for the Uchiha? The second she said this, a giant fireball flew into the air. Naruto grinned evilly. Come to daddy. Sasuke. Sasuke and his team had been traveling only to find themselves continuously passing the same area. Kiba was finally able to tell them that they were under a genjutsu. As soon as he said this, however, practically an army of identical aim genin. That was where he and his team were in now. No matter how many times he attacked them, he just kept phasing through. It was like they weren't even there. Sasuke cursed as he looked up and saw a floating rock barreling right toward him. He jumped backwards onto a rock one of the aim genin was standing on and was promptly cut across the leg. He spun around to attack the nin only for Hai Kanai to once again pass right through him. Once again he was cut along his back, and once again his attack did nothing. That does it. He quickly belted out some hand seals and unleashed a great fireball from his mouth toward a group of enemies, only to see it had no effect. Damn it. Sasuke, what are we going to do? We can't touch these things. Kiba shouted at him from a rock a distance away. Kiba swiped at his opponent, only for Sasuke to see a hand reach up from the rock with a kunai in hand, ready to stab him. Mutt jump. Kiba, used to his behavior, jumped at his command. He evaded the weapon in time for Sasuke to fire a kunai at it, effectively stabbing the hand holding the kunai. As soon as the injury was made, the surroundings around Team 7 changed, finally showing them the elusive aim group. Before the aim genin could react, there was a shout of Gitsuga, and they were torn apart by two tunneling objects. The aim genin fell to the rapids screaming and were swept away. Team 7 slumped to the ground in relief, only for them to freeze at a mirthful yet familiar voice. Now what do we have here? Naruto. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at the expression on their faces. It was priceless. Sasuke scowled. What are you doing here, Do? Naruto smirked. You see? Right there is why we hunted you down. No matter how many times you get your ass handed to you, you never learn any humility. Sasuke turned at the familiar screech of his female teammate only to see her passed out with a sunbon in her neck and Haku standing over her. Suddenly, Kiba was swept away by a blonde blur, and Sasuke could only barely turn and raise his arms in defense as Naruto dropped down with a vicious axe kick. With Yujito and Kiba. Yujito let go of Kiba after moving away a fair distance, and he jumped away. He snarled at her until he saw the bell attached to her weight and smirked. "Give me that bell, bitch, and I won't have to beat you up too bad." He never saw the swipe coming until it was too late, and how the 4 bloody scratches appeared on his face courtesy of Yujito's cat claws. Akamaru whimpered at his master's misfortune and watched Yujito flipped away. "I'm more of a cat person, sorry." "Let's get her, Akamaru." They both jumped at Yujito and spun with a shout of Getsuga. With the help of her cat-like reflexes, Yujito managed to dodge the attacks easily. This is so boring. Naruto. Naruto and Sasuke were standing on a huge rock. Naruto smirked and got into a stance. "Ready for round 2? Sasuke roared and charged Naruto, jumping up to send a furious roundhouse kick at Naruto's face, only for Naruto to lean back. Naruto placed one hand on the ground or balance, and then kicked up so that he kicked Sasuke in the back, sending him flying. Naruto flipped himself up and turned to see Sasuke also getting up. Sasuke once again charged, this time going for a leg sweep and then kicking up when Naruto jumped. Naruto blocked with an arm and used the force of the kick to make some space. He looked in time to see Sasuke shoot a fireball at him, only for him to create a circle of fire in front of him, negating the attack. Naruto charged through the smoke and delivered a haymaker to the Uchiha's face, knocking him to the ground. He then shot a small fire to the right of his face. "Dead," he said simply. He took a bell from the motionless Uchiha and threw it over the edge into the river. "You better get another bell, Uchiha." He turned to see Yujito dropping Kiba on the ground and Haku landing next to them. "Let's go." Arena. The Raikage was speaking in front of the gathered genin teams who made it through. In front of them was a lake shaped in a perfect circle with rock columns located all over the place. Around the arena was a stage filled with the audience. Welcome to the 3rd test of the Chūnin Exams. Unfortunately, even after the first 2 tests, there are too many genin. So on that note, you will all be taking a preliminary round. The matches will be as followed. Sasuke Uchiha vs Kankuro. Shikamaru Nara vs Sakura. Ino Yamanaka vs Samui. Omoi vs Shino. Karui vs Sai. Yujito vs Hinata. Haku vs Lee. Gaara vs Choji. Temari vs Tenten. Naruto vs Neji. Kiba gets a pass. Chapter 7. Chūnin Exams, Part 2. Sasuke Uchiha of Konoha and Kankuro of Suna stay in the arena. The rest of you get to the contestants' booth. Darui said. As everyone left, Sasuke and the boy with a cat-like black bodysuit and a bundle on his back stood across from each other. Sasuke smirked. "Is that your sister's paint on your face?" "It's war paint," the boy shouted, eyes twitching in anger. "Hajime." Both boys leapt back to create space and size each other up. Sasuke, after seeing his opponent not make a move, decided to start the fight by throwing kunai. Kankuro dodged the kunai and jumped up on a column and started running up it, dodging kunai all the way. Sasuke jumped up after him. He pulled his fist back into a punch, only for Kankuro to suddenly spin and swipe a clawed hand down in front of him. Sasuke's eyes widened as he felt his feet sweep up, and the next thing he knew, he was once again flying through the air by his feet, following the movement of his opponent's hand. When Sasuke crashed into a column, he groaned in pain. Okay, that hurt. He looked up at his now smirking opponent's face and scowled. What was that just now? 1 second I'm about to deck him, and the next I'm being thrown around. He didn't even touch me. He activated his Sharingan in hopes of viewing the strange jutsu. He threw a few more kunai at the Suna genin and watched as he twitched his fingers and thin chakra threads extended from his fingers to connect to the kunai. Sasuke had to jump to the side as Kankuro directed the kunai right back at him and cursed as the kunai followed him, directed by his opponent. Not so tough now, are. Kankuro sneered. He ducked below a flying roundhouse kick from the Uchiha and disconnected his chakra threads from the kunai and jumped back onto another column. In Suna, we have an old style of fighting using puppets, he said as he grabbed the bundle from behind his back. The Puppet Corporation contains some of our most famous ninja, including Akasuna no Sasori. You will now see why we are so powerful. The wrappings were released around the bundle to reveal a humanoid puppet made of wood and having 4 arms. Kankuro connected his chakra threads to the puppet, and it creaked as it moved. Sasuke scoffed. So not only do you use your sister's makeup, but you also play with dolls. This pissed off Kankuro as he sent his puppet barreling at the Uchiha. The Uchiha's eyes widened at the surprising speed of the lifeless object and had to jump away. He was further shocked as the spot where he had previously been standing exploded lightly due to the force of the puppet. Sasuke cursed as he had to flip backwards to avoid a follow-up strike, only for him to have to twist in midair to avoid the needles that came out of the puppet's mouth. Kankuro smirked. Forget the plan. This punk can die for all I care. Sasuke decided to go on the offensive and, after creating more space, went through a few hand seals. Stopping at the tiger seal, he expelled a giant fireball from his mouth just as the puppet was approaching him, causing Kankuro to have to divert its path to prevent any damage to it. Sasuke continued to fire his jutsu, creating a stalemate. Kankuro couldn't hit the Uchiha due to far of the jutsu hitting his puppet, and Sasuke couldn't move and fire his jutsu. Finally, Sasuke went through different seals and yelled, "Katan! Hosenka no jutsu!" Multiple balls of fire were expelled from his mouth and homed in on Kankuro and his puppet. Kankuro, realizing that there was no way to escape, directed his puppet in front of him. The puppet took the brunt of the attack, but the force still had him flying off of the column he was standing on. Sasuke appeared next to his falling form and gave a round zero house kick to his head, forcing him to crash headfirst into a column. Kankuro lost consciousness. Darui hopped up to Kankuro's form and checked the defeated Jinin's pulse. He then raised his hand. Winner, Sasuke Uchiha. All the Konoha teams cheered. While the medics carried Kankuro and his destroyed puppet off the field, Darui called for the next contestants. Shikamaru Nara versus Sakura Haruno. Shikamaru groaned. What a drag. Watch me, Sasuke-kun. Everyone winced as they heard the Haruno's screech. Shikamaru groaned. Maybe he should just forfeit and save himself the trouble. He felt his sensei lean over to talk to him. You know, if you don't try your hardest, your mom is going to be at your throat. Nobody had ever seen the lazy ninja move so fast. As the two ninjas stood on 2 columns facing each other, Darui appeared. Hajime. Sakura quickly whipped out a kunai, preparing to throw it only for her body to freeze involuntarily. She struggled to move only to realize it was pointless. Shikamaru yawned. Troublesome. He then looked down, forcing the confused girl to copy his movements and see the shadow connecting between them. Hey, chow, she said, shocked. Shikamaru sighed but decided to explain. These columns are creating multiple shadows. It's simple for me to be able to trap you in my technique. Winner, Shikamaru. Ino Yamanaka, Samui, please come down. When the 2 blondes stood in front of each other, Darui started the match. Hajime. Once again, the opponents didn't do anything. Samui was observing the girl. Okay, let's see. She's a Yamanaka, so they specialize in the mind. The thing is, she's so skinny. And what's with her hair? Ino was going through her own thoughts about her opponent, but they weren't as productive. Well, what's with this girl's breasts? They're bigger than mine. Is he trying to steal Sasuke-kun? Fueled by these thoughts, Ino charged at the stoic girl with a simple punch. Samui sighed. Is that the best you can do? Shut up. You're just trying to take Sasuke-kun from me. Samui's eyes narrowed at that. She blurred into the delusional girl's guard and gave her a crushing punch in the gut. Ino's eyes widened in pain and she crumpled to the ground. Samui scoffed at the girl. So you're a fangirl. Not cool, she turned away. Winner, Samui. Woohoo. Go Samui. Naruto cheered. Samui gave him a small smile. Omoi and Shino. As soon as the 2 boys were in the arena, Darui started the match. Hajime. This time there was no waiting. Shino immediately unleashing his Kikaichu, who tried to swarm Omoi. Omoi leapt to the side and quickly unsheathed his sword. He ran to Shino and attempted a beheading, only for the Shino he attacked to turn into another cloud of bugs that tried to drain him of his chakra. Omoi once again jumped back, only for the first swarm to blindside him. Quickly feeling his chakra being drained, Omoi did the only thing he could think of and cut the chakra to his feet, resulting in him falling into the lake. Thankfully, the swarm did not seem to be able to survive underwater, so he was immediately released. Omoy quickly swam a distance away and burst out of the water to land on a rock pillar only to have to immediately jump backwards to avoid a flying roundhouse kick from Shino. He flipped through some seals and said, "Right on, Raikyu," and thrust out a hand. A ball of electricity was launched at Shino, who once again burst into bugs. Omoy was getting frustrated. Every time he launched an attack, it would turn out to be a bunch of bugs, which would then attack him. Going through another set of hand seals, Omoy jumped onto a column and called out his attack. Right on, Jibashi. Putting as much chakra as was safe into the jutsu, Omoy thrust out a hand, causing a large stream of lightning to arch into the lake, creating a wide-ranged effect. Hiding behind a column, Shino noticed the danger this caused and quickly jumped up only to immediately have to raise a kunai to block his opponent's sword. Due to the force of the swing, however, he wasn't able to correct himself and once again dropped into the water. With a soundless scream, all his muscles locked up and fell into darkness. Winner, Omoy. Karui versus Sai. As Karui looked across the space between her and the black-haired Konoha boy, she was unnerved by the creepy smile he had on his face. "Why do you have that fucking smile on your face, dumbass?" she yelled. His smile only widened. "I've read that the best way to win someone over is to show a happy expression. Ugly." Silence fell upon the crowd. Even those not from Kumo could feel the sudden feeling of danger coming from the redhead. Naruto facepalmed. "Not good." Karui screamed in rage and leapt at the pasty boy. All thoughts of techniques gone as she drew her sword and slashed down at him, only to be blocked by his tanto. That damnable smile was still on his face. Planting a foot against her opponent's chest, she pushed herself away while making him stumble off the column into the water below. She used chakra to stick to the side of a column only to immediately jump off and onto the surface of the water. She quickly ran around the column her opponent had fallen behind. Seeing Sai struggling to get up, she smirked as she moved forward and placed her blade against his neck. Surrender. Only through reflex did she manage to turn around in time to block the claws of what looked like a giant white lion with strange black designs. Turning her head, she was shocked as the Sai she had ambushed turned pure black and melt. "Ink," she said in disbelief. With a roar, another lion burst in existence around her, about to tear into her. With a quick kourimi, she appeared in the place of where a boulder that had broken off lay. Panting, she looked around for more of the inky beings. Ducking, she barely missed being decapitated by a swipe from a lion and swung her sword behind her under her arm, dispelling it into its original inky substance. She ran up a column to avoid the tackle of another lion and, reaching the top, saw her opponent sitting on a column and drawing on a scroll with a brush. In her anger, she charged at him with a roar. As she watched, a lion burst out of his scroll and flew at her as the lion she was running from leapt at her from below. With no way to move in the air, she slashed at the lion below her and braced herself for impact. The lion crashed into her, sending her flying. With a scream of pain, Karui slammed into a column and was held up by her collar by Sai as his other hand held the tanto to her neck. Winner, Sai. Yujito versus Hinata. Both girls came up to the arena. While Hinata looked nervous, Yujito was confident. As the match was called, Hinata spoke up. "Why, you're on the same team as Naruto-kun is on, right?" she asked meekly. Yujito raised an eyebrow and nodded. Hinata perked up slightly at this. "Then please, give us back Naruto-kun. He belongs with his village and friends," she said desperately. Yujito stiffened and her eyes grew cold. "We don't have anything to discuss. Please dash." Hinata was interrupted when Yujito appeared in front of her in a burst of speed and punched her in the face, sending her flying. Impacting into the wall of the arena, Hinata had to quickly dive to the side to avoid a stomp from the angered blonde. "How dare you insinuate that Naruto belongs with you?" Yujito screamed as she chased after the girl. Byakugin, Hinata thought as her Jujutsu appeared in her eyes, helping her see the girl's chakra network. Naruto was given hell the first 6 years of his life in your horrible excuse of a village. He was accused of being a demon. Yujito winced as the pale-eyed girl lashed out at her, managing to hit a few tenketsu in her left arm. She screeched in anger, sounding very much like the cat inside her who was just as angry, calling for the Hyuga's blood. She jumped back from the girl's strikes. She was using all the feline grace she gained from her tenant to dodge the fluid strikes of the Hyuga. As she flipped backward onto the wall, she bounced back and tackled the girl, bringing them both to the ground. Yujito quickly raised her right arm and manipulated her chakra to appear over her nails. Bringing her hand down, SH quickly pressed the now obvious cat claws against the scared girl's throat. "Surrender, or I will kill you." Hinata surrendered. As Yujito stood up, she glared down at Hinata. "You mentioned Naruto had friends and that you wanted him back. Where were you when he needed you?" She walked away. Winner, Yujito. Naruto cheered as his best friend and teammate won her match. Haku versus Lee. YSH. Lee shouted, "It is time for the springtime of youth to flourish." He was quickly sent flying courtesy of a punch from his panda-haired teammate. "Damn it, Lee, would you just shut up and not embarrass us in front of other villages?" She screamed. Lee hopped up as if he hadn't just been assaulted, sending her a dazzling smile and a thumbs up. "All right, Tintin." He turned to his clearly amused opponent and bowed. "I hope to have a good fight." Haku lowered the hand she was holding over her mouth to hide her giggle and smiled warmly at the eccentric boy. "As do I." They jumped at each other. XXX. Winner, Lee. The fight had been intense. While both fighters were speed-oriented, Lee was just a little faster and had the advantage of being stronger. Even with Haku's Hayaton, Makio Hyosho, Lee was able to dodge her attacks. Due to Haku still not having more Hayaton techniques at her disposal, she was defeated. The arena was completely destroyed due to the fierce fight, but was not being fixed due to ninja needing to adapt to all types of terrain. Choji versus Gaara. When Naruto looked over to the Konoha nin, he noticed the plump Akimiki's teammate was whispering into his ear, looking nervous. He saw Choji noticeably gulp and raise a hand. "I surrender." The crowd booed, displeased at the lack of a fight. Winner, Gaara. Tintin versus Temari. The fight was over fast. There wasn't a contest. While the bun-haired was an accomplished weapons user, her weapons were useless against the Sand Nin's fan and wind techniques. Every weapon she threw at the girl was blown back with a wave of the giant fan, even when she had shown that all the weapons she threw were connected to chakra strings. Temari had just smirked and created a tornado that lifted Tintin up and crashed her into a wall. Instant KO. Winner, Temari. Naruto was practically jumping up and down in anticipation. Naruto versus Neji. Naruto hopped down to a large boulder in the center of the arena and waited for his opponent. He scowled though as the Hyuga took his time. When they were both facing each other, Darui started the match. "You should give up," Neji said quickly before Naruto could get into his stance. Naruto raised an eyebrow. "Why would I give up? I am fated to win this match. You cannot defeat me," Neji said with conviction. Naruto shook his head at that. "I do not believe in fate." This caused Neji to scowl and activate his Byakugan. He dashed at the blonde and lashed out with a palm, aiming for his right arm. Naruto spun to the right, his feet crossing over and over due that he moved in a circular fashion to appear behind Neji, allowing him to launch a kick at his back. Neji was launched forward from the kick and had to execute a flip to avoid crashing into the wall of the arena. He winced in pain from the blow. "No matter, fate has decreed me the winner of this fight. There is no way I can lose to this Kumo nin. I am not a weakling like Hinata-sama." He jumped down to the water and ran along the outer edges of the arena, launching shuriken at his opponent to observe his reaction. Noticing the shuriken coming for him, Naruto started to move, ducking and dodging smoothly through the hail of metal. He quickly gained on Neji and lashed out quickly, launching two quick but light punches at Neji's arm, and then jumped back from a retaliating strike from Neji's other arm. XXX. Up at the stands, those not from Kumo were confused by Naruto's actions. "I knew that guy was all talk," Kiba exclaimed with a smirk. "All he did was tap Neji. What was that supposed to do? He's weak." The Kumo girl with long hair who had defeated Hinata looked over at him and laughed. "Naruto is anything but weak. He will definitely win." Kiba sneered at her. "What are you talking about, you bitch?" He is nothing special. Yujito smirked. Ask your Uchiha. He knows exactly what Naruto just did. Everyone looked over to Sasuke to see him scowling and gripping the railing in anger. Namikaze did the same thing to me in our wave mission. He just messed with Niji's pressure points. Niji won't be able to move that arm, he said with distaste. The Konoha and Suna teams looked down at the two fighters in shock. Triple X. Niji jumped at the retreating blonde and tried to launch a palm with his right hand only for his arm to not respond to his commands. Shocked, he quickly retreated and snarled in anger. What have you done to me? Naruto grinned. That arm won't work anymore, Naruto stated. And before you go crazy spouting bullshit about that being a Hyuga technique, I did not shut off your chakra, just your arm. Niji looked down at his arm with his Byakugan and saw that the blonde was correct. His chakra was still functioning correctly. He just couldn't move his arm. Niji snarled at the revelation. His techniques required him to have both his hands. Without his right arm, his abilities were literally cut in half. This means nothing. Destiny is absolute. It controls us all. It took away my dash, just as he was about to go into a monologue about how he lost his father to Kumo and was branded the caged bird seal. Naruto interrupted him by blurring in front of him and punching him in the face. As Niji got up and wiped the blood away from his face, Naruto spoke up. I don't care. Niji looked at him in surprise. I already know about your sob story. Our old Kage wanted to be a Kugen, so he had our representative try to steal the Hyuga heiress. The clan head killed the kidnapper, and we demanded his head as compensation. Only, your clan ticked us and gave us the clan head's twin brother, your father. You were branded the caged bird seal and became the whiny fuck you are today. Did I miss anything? Niji roared at the blonde and lunged himself at him. In his anger, he never noticed the foot soaring up to connect with his stomach, simultaneously knocking him out from all the breath leaving his body and causing him to soar into the air. Winner, Naruto.